Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, getting better, and waving frantically. My name is Ben Hansen, and I want to thank thee for joining us. We're joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello, how's it going?
Hi. Pretty good. Pretty good. How are you, man?
I'm good. I didn't expect you to answer that. I don't know. I just thought you would go to the next person.
Yeah, the point of the beginning of a podcast is it's like a little red wagon going down a hill. You gotta just fly. Haley McLean, welcome.
Hello, thank thee for having me.
You're welcome to thee. Also, Janet Garcia, welcome to you.
Hello.
Hello. On this very episode of the podcast, we are taking a turn for the spooky, getting ready for October, Kyle. Because we're talking about the original Alan Wake, 2010's Alan Wake. Haley has fallen in love with it, and so we're going to unpack all that stuff. And then that's going to segue better than any segue imaginable into a preview of Alan Wake 2 that Jenna Garcia went to. Then we're going to be talking even more about spooky things with the DLC for Resident Evil 4's remake, Separate Ways, starring Ada Wong, our favorite. And then Janet is going to regale us with the tales of EA Sports FC 24, otherwise known as FIFA. That is the worst title for a game since Lego 2K Drive, I have to say. It is rough.
That bad, especially because Neil Smith in Backstage Pass pointed this out, that FC is like a really common moniker for a football club.
Oh,
like
okay.
in the
Is that
UK
football
FC,
club?
Yeah.
Is that what that's what it stands for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd know if you were in the club. And then,
I've watched a lot of Ted Lasso, but that's about the cap for me.
You're set.
Even like, I think, and don't at me on this because I don't fully remember, but Miami's team, it's Inter Miami, isn't it also FC as well, I think? Like, FC is not, like, they did not pull that out of thin air. That is like a common
I know,
soccer
it's not out of thin air, but they pulled it out of a putrid swamp of game names for the outside world. Anyways, back half of the show, we have community questions that people submitted over there.
Outside world,
Patreon.
I mean, it's like just the United States are the only ones that are probably confused
Kyle,
by it. If we're being
are you
honest.
Also, it confirmed it is Inter Miami FC, which is a U.S. soccer team. So there you go.
Hang, I'm picking up some
So
resistance.
it's your problem, Ben.
Kyle, are you also in the camp that the name EA Sports FC 24 is a good name for a video game?
I mean, I don't.
You don't know?
Well, all sports games are acronyms except for Madden.
Yeah, that's a great name. Just call it Soccer Ball 24. You could come up with something better.
You know what? You nailed it. Soccer Ball 24.
Call it,
FC 24.
please, yeah, Pele 25. There's instant options everywhere.
There we go.
Hey, real quick, I like following up on previous podcasts. You know, remember last week we were talking about the Xbox leak and all that fun stuff, and like, oh, does anybody buy physical for their new consoles and stuff? I was blown away. We did a Twitter poll, just where I asked, how many physical games have you purchased for your PS5 and or Xbox Series X? 67% of people, following MinnMax on Twitter at least, have purchased at least one physical game for their modern console, which is a lot higher than I was expecting.
Physicals for the normies. Like, I didn't, we get into a lot obviously on the show, but I think it's fair to say that we don't always get every single thought in our mind like on each episode. But I was thinking about that a lot, having been to a GameStop recently to like trade in some old like controllers and stuff that I didn't need anymore. And there's like a bunch of people there getting games, and I was there, and there was like a family, like a mom and a son. And it was like, okay, what's on sale? They were asking like, how much does this cost? And they were trying to get like discounts and things. And obviously there's digital discounts too, but I do think, at least in my experience, like I can't really picture being a kid and my parent being okay with like putting their credit card information into like a digital space, which I know seems silly because we do all our stuff like that now. Like, I've modernized, like I have my cards on my iPhone. Like those are things that I thought I would never do like 10 years ago because I'm like, oh no, it's not safe enough. But there are a lot of, I think, older school people that come in, they do that, and they can also trade in their games too. There's like a lot of monetary value. So I do feel like the common man's content is physical still.
And I think that it also goes beyond there, was like the gap of like the quote unquote common gamer man or woman, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Generic man.
Thank you, Haley. Please, I'm no hero. Please, down in front.
I'm no.
Everyone give Ben his flowers.
No, but then there's the gap, and then I think the hardcore gamer also, And maybe that's the crowd that's following MinnMax on Twitter. They're also into buying a lot of games. Like, 27% of people have purchased between 4 to 10 games, and then 18% of people in that poll purchased more than 10 physical games so far. So it's like, it comes back around to like the limited run I am 8-bit shoppers, maybe, I think.
I mean, if it wasn't for this job, I would be buying all my games physical.
Yeah, just for like sharing and stuff.
Yeah, just sharing the value, the display. Like, the only reason I don't buy physical is because what am I going to do? Buy the games I have twice for the culture? Like, I don't feel like doing it. In games media, a job that historically does not pay that much, I'm not going to be double dipping on. Like, I love Horizon. I'm not buying a physical copy after, unless it's like, I don't know, Wild Collector's Edition thing. Like, if I got a code for it, that's why all my games, physical games, are Switch games, because Nintendo doesn't give us anything.
No.
I also live in constant fear of those licenses just being revoked, frankly.
Right.
Like, I'm like, truly, like, I use Vudu to watch movies a lot. And I have a huge library that I've been growing for years, and every day I look at it and I'm like, if this service doesn't maintain like popularity, like, what happens to this library of hundreds of movies that I've purchased over the years? And like, I feel similarly about games. So I do still buy a lot of physical games. And the Janet, you bring up a good point. My daughter really wanted to play Goodbye Volcano High the other day, and it was an absolute nightmare to try to buy it on her account. I don't, I'll give her the credit card information. I don't mind, but it's like, it was just such a huge pain to like get it on her account that I was like, I wish I could just run to the store and buy this on a disc. It would just make my life so much easier.
Yeah.
So
you're scared of things being pulled from digital storefronts, just like the original Alan Wake was pulled because of its banger licensed soundtrack for at least a year before it was all reinstated and all that fun stuff. Alan Wake, everybody, it's the hottest property in gaming going into October. It's a fun time in the industry.
You're very snippy today.
Really?
Yeah, it's some
Alan Wake's
sass today.
catching
I like
strays.
No.
Sakura's catching strays.
Oh, no. I was sincere with Alan Wake. I think it's awesome that like everyone's hyped for Alan Wake in a way that must be really satisfying for Remedy. It's like full circle here, because I was trying to think of why I had never played the original Alan Wake. I'm like, why? How did I dodge this in such a big way for that first game?
you pressed B and you kind of did like an awkward
kind of
sort
a juke
duck,
thing. Yeah. No, it turns out I didn't realize or remember that it came out like the same time as the first Red Dead Redemption. It's like, well, there's just, and also I didn't own a 360.
and Mario Galaxy.
Oh
right?
my God. Yeah.
2010 was a crazy year, There's a lot going on.
I did just stream like the first hour of Alan Wake. It's on MinnMax's YouTube channel right now if you want to check that out there. But at least me playing that first hour of the first game was like, oh, I'm an idiot for never playing this. This is such a cool, at least I think the opening section was awesome. But Haley, what is with this passion of yours for going back to this thing?
Oh my God. I mean, I could talk about this game for like hours. I feel like I've just been writing notes at like a weirdo and like thinking about it at bed. I don't know. It's just such, I completely missed it too. And I feel dumb that I missed it because it's such a me game. And it's so like, and I'm like, Haley, why did you, I don't know. Maybe I just looked at it and I saw white guy spooky and I like thought it was something it wasn't. I don't know what I thought, but I was just like,
very
I'm also
fair.
I'm also not great with horror and it's not that scary. So like, maybe if someone had told me, Haley, it's not that scary, you'll like it, it's more about the plot, then I would have been like, okay, I'll try it. But I just assumed it was like Resident Evil level scary for some reason. I don't know where I got that from.
Well, I think the marketing, I think the look of it for sure. I was kind of surprised even in the first hour, and maybe it gets away from this, but starting it out, I was like, oh, this is more survival horror than I was expecting. Because I knew like, okay, very story focused, all right, spooky at night, you get the idea. But then booting it up, it's like, oh, this feels more like Resident Evil 4, especially because I've been playing so much of Resident Evil 4 lately again. It's like, oh, this feels more like that than I expected, especially based on their messaging for Alan Wake 2 of like, finally, Remedy's doing survival horror, where it's like, it's a pretty blurry line if they're not counting Alan Wake 1 as survival horror.
This is more action horror in my mind, though. Like, I would say it's that, not survival, because I feel less worried going to an action horror game than survival horror, because I feel like action horror can be campy, and then that kind of alleviates the stress a little bit. Like Resident Evil 4 is so campy. I love it for that. It's not, I don't get scared because I'm like, Leon, you blonde bimbo, and I love him for it, and then it's fun. But like Resident Evil 2 remake, I want to die because I'm absolutely terrified, and zombies are in lockers, and there's no holding back. The jump scares are everywhere. There was like one jump scare in Alan Wake.
Well, that's the thing. Like that game it's not like scary. It's not giant monster scary. It's like, what's happening here scary, right? It's like creepy in a way I love. Like I would put it closer to like a Limbo or an Inside, where you're just existing in a strange place. And I love that. That's like one of my favorite things. I love that.
Yeah, there's just something about the tone from the beginning, and I want to hear more, Haley, about your overall thoughts on it. But like, it's so lovably on the nose, I guess. I don't know if this is just defining a lot of Remedy stuff, but like the fact that the game literally opens with Stephen King once wrote, just like it could not be more in your face with its influences of like, look, we really like Twin Peaks. It has to have a lot of Mouth of Madness, the John Carpenter movie. Have you guys ever seen Mouth of Madness from the 90s? It rules. And like even playing the opening, like, oh my God, this makes me want to watch Mouth of Madness again. But it's so sweet how in love with its influences it is. And I guess that's kind of a charm of Remedy throughout its history.
I think there's even more to that, though, than the base level of just isn't this charming. I think they're doing a lot more with the way they set up the world in this, like, egotistical writer. We all know the writer. He's this, and this. That feels very, like, basic. But then as soon as you keep playing the game, you're like, oh, my God, I thought this was going to be dumber than I thought. They're, like, doing such crazy stuff with the narrative. Like, this game has me thinking about what is a game more than like any other game I've ever played. Like what is a game and what does it let you do? Because it's mashing together different media in the most interesting way ever. Because it's commentating on what's a book, what's a game, what's a show. And it's like, what does it mean to be a reader, a watcher, or a player? And what can you do as those three things? And how can we overlap things? Where's the best place to overlap? And they do so much with that, and it's making me feel crazy. Like even the epigraph, the Stephen King thing, is like they're taking literary devices and they're making them gameplay mechanics, but not in the traditional way. Like you find manuscripts on the ground, and you like again, I could just I love it. It's like you're Alan Wake, but there's also the manuscripts, which are third person narrative, where you can read about what's happening when you leave areas or you're about to come to an area or something happens off screen. Like, so for example, there's like one manuscript you pick up and it's like, Barry was terrified. He had to text Alan. As soon as he texted him, something burst in and attacked him. And then like an hour later, I got a text from Barry and I was like, he's getting attacked right now. But like, it was just something I knew because I read that page. And that's like, like Shakespeare does meta theater. This like it's like Shakespeare. It's like Hamlet's play inside a play, which is considered one of the best literary things of all time. Like meta theater, where you have the actors acting in the media, and that's one of the most complicated and hard things to pull off, like literally speaking. And this game does it really well, and it just has me thinking, oh my God, it's written by writers, like 100%.
Very much in love with the process and the struggle of writing, because Alan Wake has had writer's block for 2 years. He can't get this new book written, or maybe he did. It's all twists on nightmares within itself. It's funny because
Ben, did you get far enough to meet the police officer that just calls you a different author every time?
David Chandler.
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna get you this time.
It is so funny.
And then he just throws out an author name, H.G. Wells or whatever.
You're like coming into this small town in the beginning with your wife, and then you go into the diner, and in the diner in this small town, they just have a big cardboard cutout of Alan Wake, their favorite author. It's like, how many small town diners have a cutout of like Stephen King sitting there like, no relation. We just really, really like this guy, so put it up there.
They actually address that, don't
they? Do they?
Yeah, the waitress there is
she's like a huge fan. Yes,
super.
She
fan.
does. Yes, you're right.
It's not like you walk into any diner. It's all part of the. Right, the men.
She brought that from home, probably.
What is going on in this place? Why am I a standee here? It's like all part of the narrative,
I gotta say, like that diner is also the scene. It's a cool kind of trippy opening, and then the diner is really where it set the hook for me. For like, oh, this is good. Where it's just, I'm a sucker for any game that has real live photos around of just like, hey, here's a real photo of somebody who caught a giant fish on the wall.
Let me introduce you to Remedy's games.
right.
Get ready for a lot more of that.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
That's good. I agree with you.
The combination of that, and then you turn on the jukebox because this old timer's like, I want to hear a song, and it's just that, put the lime in the coconut, check it out. It's like, this is immediately a very specific tone that feels completely unique. But Haley, I don't know if you had the same impression that I did, but like, I feel like everybody talking about Alan Wake since 2010 has been like, cool game, kind of uneven, kind of tricky to go back to. It's a cult classic. But it seems like you really had such a smooth time with it that it hasn't aged too well in your mind. I assume you played the remaster.
No, I played the original.
Whoa, okay.
On Steam, yeah, because I wanted to play it on Steam so that I could play it in bed a little bit, because I just got a Steam Deck, so I wanted to play it.
Nice.
I do.
Did that? I mean, was that a version that got upgraded to like,
It probably looks a lot better than it did on the 360 for sure, and it came with the 2 DLCs, which I played too, which were also good. But they were more about like look at this weird gameplay mechanic that we didn't get to expound upon too much in the story. Let's show it off in the DLC. And then it extended the story a little bit, but it was more like they tried to do platforming at one point in the DLC, and I was like, this is not a platforming game. You cut that out. Stop it. But it was fine. Like, it worked fine. It looked great. I mean, I kept saying, I even had it on low because for some reason it was making my Steam chug. Like, my PC was having a problem with it. And I was like, this game's a decade old. Why can't I run it? What the heck? Like, I was driving around, and apparently those are the worst areas.
Oh, yeah, driving. Oh, my God.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be an open world game, and then they backtracked. And I don't think they, like, optimized those sections. They were just like, open world, lots of polygons. Let's just leave it as it is. So then every time I got to the open world sections, my frame rate was like 1. It was like, jug, jug, jug. And I was like, oh, I had to go down to low. And then I left it on low for the rest of the game, and I was like, this looks good. I think, like, yeah, he looks very 2010 model, like, John Marston looking guy. Like, the face is a little chunky or whatever. But other than, like, I didn't notice any. I wasn't like, oh, it's so old looking. I was totally fine playing there.
Nice. And the puzzles and stuff, it wasn't too antiquated going through it?
No, I mean, like, that's another kind of thing I like about this game is they know that it has to be fun to get you to play, so they make the shooting and stuff quite fun.
Yeah.
It's that's why I think it's another really masterful combination of like narrative and gameplay, is because they're like, okay, we have a really interesting story to tell, but we need them to go from point A to point B. If they walk, they're going to hate it and they're not going to play, because a player is not a reader. Like, a player wants to do stuff, again, which is like really interesting commentary on like what's a player, what's a reader. A reader will sit there and look at words for hours and not do a single thing, and they'll get to the end of the story. But a player needs like a carrot and a stick. You have to be like, come on, baby, like get through. It has to be fun. Otherwise, they'll just be like, ugh, and like walk away from it. My brother would never beat Edith Finch. You know what I mean? He would never, even though I'd tell him that story's amazing, you love it. He just doesn't want to walk around. He wants to be. Yeah, so like, and they even say like, this gun is not a gun, it's a tool. And I'm like, I know it's a gun, but they're saying it's a tool just to get you to keep going, almost in a meta way as well. Like, yeah, that's what I kept kind of thinking about, is they made sure that the flashlight shooting thing is fun, pretty much just to make sure you keep playing and get to the narrative elements of it, I think.
Okay, funky. It's awesome that you fell in love with this game. And it was just to prep for Alan Wake 2, that's what kind of put it on your radar?
Yeah, and I went back and watched all the trailers for Alan Wake 2, and they hit so different now. Because when I first watched them, I was like, oh, Resident Evil 2 remake, scary, no thanks. Like, I wasn't into it. And I was just like, I could appreciate it looks amazing, but I was like, it might not be for Haley. But now that I've played this, I'm like frothing at the bit. I'm at the bars of my jail cell wiggling like crazy. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say, Janet, about 2, because I'm so eager now. I can't wait to play 2.
Awesome.
Well, did you also play American Nightmare, or have you touched that one?
I didn't play American Nightmare. People in my stream said it's kind of just a mob mode, like you just fight. There wasn't that much story going on, which was I was in it more for the story. Maybe.
I mean, there is story. It's all it's canon. And I think you would actually like it because it is such a funky structure. Because it's like it's very Groundhog Day approach to like Alan Wake, where you're kind of playing through the same sequences a number of times, but in a way that's interesting. You know, I think it's especially if you're like all in on Alan Wake. I think you should try to squeeze that one in before.
I'll squeeze it in then.
Did you play Control, Haley?
No, and now I want to play Control, because now I know the whole
you have
world
to play
is all
Control.
connected.
Okay, you have like. I think you'd like it, because it's like if you're talking about you want a great story with fun gameplay, like Control is. Like, that was my game of the year that year that it came out. Like, it is so incredible. And it has Alan Wake DLC. Yeah. So, like, that's why you have to... Yeah, but...
He shows up.
Exactly. So, it's like, you gotta, you gotta check it out. Like, it's kind of a big commitment to fit before Alan Wake 2 comes out. But, like, it's so incredible. Like, that was my entry point into Remedy, actually, Control. Like, I'd never played any of their games until I played Control.
Oh, fun.
I played Max Payne 3, which I know isn't Remedy, but like that was the closest I ever got to Remedy, because I never played
Remedy offshoot thing, yeah.
Remedy off, sadly selling IP, and then someone else makes it Remedy.
Well, yeah, it's like Rockstar, it's confusing, yeah. Kyle, do you remember when we went to Remedy for Game Informer?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that was a cool trip. Yeah, we went for Quantum Break.
Right. I went back and looked at a video after I played the opening of Alan Wake, because I'm like, I remember there was something Alan Wake related that we did there. And if we did like a video tour. It's on Game Informer's YouTube channel. You can check it out. But it's like a video tour of kind of the archive room within Remedy. And they did I thought it was the coolest thing. I'd never seen this before from other developers, but whenever they finished a game, like, all right, we finished Max Payne 1, we have all the assets on one computer, now we're just gonna take that tower and just put it in storage, just so if we ever need to go back and get the source code, just pull anything, we can have that all sitting there. And so like they had computers for each one of the games that they finished. But then the cool part is they had like wardrobes there, just like closets full of clothes, and they had Alan Wake's actual jacket, like the jacket they modeled for that. Yeah. And then the weird part, Kyle, going back to it, is they also had like a black jacket in there, and the guy giving the tour, he's like, yeah, this was like for Alan Wake 2, like an earlier version of Alan Wake 2 where Alan was kind of in a darker spot, so this was kind of like his cool black jacket we were going for, but I don't think he's wearing that now in this version of Alan Wake 2.
Well,
so.
I mean, Polygon has a big piece from many years ago where they showed like, gosh, I want to say like an hour of like Alan Wake 2 footage, like back when it was like, this was what we were working on before it got canceled, etc. So like that was the version that jacket's from. At that point, I can't imagine they were working on Alan Wake 2 realistically, other than just wanting to.
Right.
Yeah.
But hey, now everybody in the world's ready for Alan Wake 2. And Jen, you went to a big preview for this thing. Give me high level takeaway. Alan Wake 2 is...
It's awesome. It's a combo of control. It has, to me, way stronger gameplay than Alan Wake. So like, well, I'll like give my big pitch and then I'll go into my Alan Wake stuff. Definitely has a lot of, I think, beloved horror elements pulled in. You know, you see aspects of like True Detective. There's a Shining moment. It's a little Stranger Things with Alan Wake being in the dark place, which is literally, gosh, where is it? It's underneath like some lake or something. So it's like, okay, he's in the Upside Down, basically, you know?
Sure.
It's got
yeah, but they did it first, to be fair.
Sure, whatever, right? Yeah. But either way, when you experience it, you're just going to be like, I mean, if you want to be like, I don't know, well, actually, my mind connected this, but technically, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the connection that at least I made just off the top of my head.
Sure.
It's like, it has an aspect of the medium's reality switching gameplay, but if it was good. So
okay, so reality switching gameplay.
The medium, super interesting game that just did not land, but
and so that's like with Alan Wake, because the whole idea is you can play as Saga, who's the FBI agent, and so if you're kind of new to the franchise, it's nice to have this kind of onboarding point where she's also confused with everything that's going on, but then you can switch to Alan Wake, and from what I saw in the preview, seems like with Alan Wake, you have like something you click? Is it a flashlight and it like changes like reality?
It's like a light stick. Like if you're a K-pop person. And you have like those light sticks. That's basically what it is. It can kind of capture light or release it. And there's different light bulbs you can interact with that will change the look of the environment. So that's the aspect of it that if you played, 4 years ago, the medium or a lot of games have this kind of reality switching aspect. You'll have, okay, well, if I change it to like B, now this doorway exists. But if I change it to A, there's like a staircase and you might need to change it to different things to reach different areas of the level.
Okay, I'm still confused. So, you know, he's underneath the lake, but then
the dark place.
Dark place. But then it looks like 70s New York. Like, how open is that? Is it more of an open New York area compared to like Saga and walking through the woods with a flashlight there?
I think they're both just as open and not open. Like, it definitely is a section-y game. Like it's not, you know, it's talking about the Alan Wake comparison. Like it's not like it's open world where you're just going every which way. I believe there is a fast travel system with the car where you just kind of quickly zoom to the different sections. So you're not like traversing this massive area, but I feel like the exploration that you do get, again, similar to Resident Evil, where I don't think you're going to find yourself wanting like, oh, I wish this was 8 times the size. Like it's about really exploring the areas that you're given. But there is like quite a bit of spacing. There's enough space to get lost. I'll tell you that from my preview.
That right? You're
which
confused.
Is probably my only ding, which we can always chop this up to like, oh, maybe y'all just like, and you know, it's tough too. It's a preview, you're thrown in, you're a few missions in, it's like you don't have the onboarding. But I will say there definitely were some aspects of the telegraphing that I thought weren't super clear. Like at one point they're like, follow the neon sign. And then like someone comes to me and they're like, no, it's the other neon sign. I get how that's confusing because everything is neon. And I'm like, yeah, a little bit, you know? So there's definitely those pockets of challenges, but I don't think that's anything that's going to make the game like less enjoyable. It just might add, you know, a layer of challenge.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, I feel like the main knock against Control that I remember is like the map was subpar. It was a lot of like, where am I now? What's going on? So it's weird to have like their follow-up game also the main challenge is navigating and not being sure where to go. But like, I guess you don't want it to be too handheld. I don't know.
Okay, so like the thing with the Control map, which like everyone is right, the Control map is bad.
Correct.
However, I will say for me personally, I only got lost in Control one time. Like I played that whole game, I wrote the guide for it. I did not get lost. I'm like, the stuff is labeled, y'all, in the environment. Like,
yeah,
I get that you would wish it'd be nice to have more support from the map because Control does have a map. It's just not a good one. But there is a lot of environmental directions. And I definitely think they lean again into environmental directions with like, you have to find this ride. And like at one section, when you're playing a saga, you go to this place called Coffee World, which is awesome. Like there's so much good like aesthetic choices in this game. It's like a wonderful blend of spooky. Again, it is a little scary, but it's not like ridiculously scary all the time. You got like plenty of ammo, at least in the preview build I played. Like I didn't really feel like it was super hardcore gameplay, but it's just a cool world to be in and be exploring. So yeah, I mean, happy to just walk through like what I actually did with the preview, like how they sectioned it up and things, but you know.
Yeah, so Coffee World, that's an abandoned amusement park that's all coffee themed. That's the idea there?
Yeah, I'm trying to see, like, is it actually called, I think it is called Coffee World or Coffee Land.
Yeah, I think it's Coffee World.
Coffee Land.
Trailer. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to Sam Lake's TikTok account if you just want to see short videos of him drinking coffee in different places around the world.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think I want to watch that. That seems okay, yeah.
I'll pretty much watch anything with Sam Lake at this point in my life. But the preview was basically a total of about maybe 2 or 3 hours divided across 2 different missions. So we had, the switching between Alan Wake and Saga, like you can like go to a section to do that, but they also have like kind of their own missions and their stories sort of feed into each other. So what we were given was the 3rd Saga mission, and we played that for like, you know, an hour and a half or so. And then we later played the 5th Alan Wake mission in the Dark Place. And like that's how the preview was divided. So it's not like I was, I'm Saga, now I'm Alan Wake. Like you have missions and like the things you learn interconnect and they feed into each other. So
you
yeah,
can't, like Grand Theft Auto 5 swap whenever you want. It's like
I actually haven't played Grand Theft Auto 5.
Okay, how about Broken Age? Can you Broken Age swap?
I don't not that I saw.
Can you
like
Spider-Man
I don't think that's really
swap?
how it's set up. Like you're not like hot swapping between them necessarily. That's not to say that there isn't like a level of autonomy maybe in terms of how you like go about it, but it's not like you're hot swapping. Oh, I'm in one reality now. It's Alan Wake, but it's like you know what I mean? They're not like mirroring each other. It's their own like kind of places that they exist in.
I realized we got Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, and Sea of Stars this year are all like dual protagonist games where you kind of play as 2 protagonists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the hot trend.
I feel like that's a really popular like emerging trope for a lot of games. Cool. Sometimes it's like a surprise and sometimes it's not. And in this case, obviously,
there's another one. Oh, that was
there's a lot of games. Yeah, it's a lot of those games. But yeah, you're Saga, you're Alan Wake. So the Saga mission took place in the town of Watery. You're investigating like this cult that's going on and these like killings. Everyone knows you, but you don't really know anybody. And you're like, why do people know me? Like, have I been here? So there's like a lot of like weirdness out the gate, which is really fun. But yeah, you end up, the task you're given is to go to your your home, which is in a trailer park, and someone's like, oh, but the keys are over in Coffee Land. So you head over to Coffee Land, you go through the woods, and you're like, you know, heading over there, and it's like you have to get, you know, it's classic puzzle or light fetch quest mission structures where you maybe need to get into the office for the keys, but there's a lock, so you have to figure out, okay, well, there's something that I read a note and they say they were fixing something and they left the wrench by the percolator ride. So now I'm going to go to the percolator ride, and you find that ride by looking at the little signs that show percolators to the left. And that's what I mean by kind of the way it's laid out.
Yeah.
And
so
again, puzzles are very like Resident Evil-y in nature.
So there's no map.
There's a map.
Oh, there is a map.
But,
okay.
Yeah, but it's not great. It's not like super detailed. It very much looks like, it's a map that looks like, you know, when you get a theme park map, it's like that kind of like flatness to it. And like the Alan Wake one obviously is not a theme park, so it's like New York, but it's like a set of squares and there's some markings. So like
you're
the
going to
map's
have to
not
pay
super.
attention.
There's no mini map, which is the reason I felt like I had to keep opening the map and reorienting myself. But I'm also directionally challenged, so there's that issue
all
too.
are.
But
It looks, seeing the map, it looks very Silent Hill, like even to the point of having Alan like scratching off sections he can't go to and stuff. And I wonder if that's intentional, because that is a strong part of Silent Hill 2 is having a map, a tourist map that you check frequently.
Has a bit of jump scares. Like there's a lot of like trippy reality flashes. I mean, you even see that in some of like their, trailer footage or like SGF footage of like screams, and there's it's scary, but it's not like ridiculously scary. Like I think a horror noob can easily play it and feel comfortable. Mechanically, you have, the flashlight to stun the sort of shadowy figures and like the shooting. So that part feels very reminiscent of like, I only played a little bit of Alan Wake. Like I played enough to be like, this story seems really cool, and I hate this gameplay. Like I hated the gameplay.
Oh, really?
I thought it was very I thought it was
so
super
surprising. Yeah.
I thought it was stiff. I thought it was awkward. I mean, I know it's really old, but like I didn't like it at all.
The running does suck in Alan Wake. Like the fact that dodge is sprint that's like my biggest qualm in that game. That you have to
it's a little bit of a exactly, like it's got a lot of stiffness to it. The story seems super cool, but I'm like, my thing for Alan Wake is I'm like, the worst part of Alan Wake was actually playing it, which is kind of bad when it's a video game that you have to play.
Yeah, that's so because I picked it up about a year ago, and admittedly I loved it when it came out, but that mechanic of using the flashlight so that enemies have to sort of amble towards you and get close to you, and like that combination of like, it's even better. Maybe that's not fair to say, but like Resident Evil 4 does it really well too, where it's like they want enemies to walk up to you and get close and make you feel like
you're being cornered,
constrained. And I feel like Alan Wake does it so well because it's like part of the mechanic of you have to let them get close to you to execute your final attack. And I love that. And of course, Janet, if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. But that's like one of the things that I think holds up. It's like, so it's some of my favorite Remedy shooting. Like I think I would even put it above Max Payne.
That's the only thing that I'm curious too, how much, like, I think this is like a big step up and I think people are going to love it. But I will say it feels different than like how Alan Wake's so old. It's like, obviously they're not going to feel the same, but you have a lot more autonomy and motion in this. Like it feels very modern. Like you don't have to let people get super close. You don't have to be underneath like the perfect beam of light. Like it's a lot more actiony in that sense. The RE4 comparison I think is pretty apt because it's not a game that, at least in the preview build I played, like I was not worried about ammo or worried about being in a corner. Like you can easily run away from enemies, or you can like shoot them a bunch of times, and if you don't shoot them perfectly in the head, it's not a big deal. You have a shotgun and a pistol and like all these things. And granted, again, a couple missions into it, maybe it starts off a little bit more stripped down, but I felt like very capable of coming in and like knocking out enemies as I needed.
I love that idea that kind of the starting point for the original version of Alan Wake was GTA, of we're going to make an open world but survival, scary place. And now in this, the starting point seems to be, for the point of inspiration, Resident Evil 2 remake. It's like, it just feels such a healthier spot to make a game that's so clearly derived from one of the greatest over the last 5 years now.
Did the Taken have, like, were they smart? Like, because one thing I did like in Alan Wake 1 is they kind of just like, and they just walk at you and you're like, okay, haha. But like in this one, do they kind of like use shadow to get, like, I would be really interested to see if I turned to flashlight, maybe the smarter ones, like the level 3 Takens or something, see a pole and like duck behind the pole or something and then come back out. And so I have to be like, I'll get them around. Like, is that something you found they were doing a bit, or were they just walking at you?
I think they could hold their own. Like, I don't think the gameplay was like super hard, but like I did die at points. Like it wasn't like completely without friction. So I think there's like a bit of, there's a bit of dodging, a bit of maneuvering, you back up, you reload. Like it does feel like you're there and you're in it and you're in the action and you're not just, as you kind of described, waiting for people to sort of line your shot up and then you kind of do what you need to do. Like it definitely felt like the fights had a level of friction that did feel a little bit reminiscent of the action that, you may remember from like Control, for people that played that, where there's a bit of the zooping, you're kind of, dodging around, reloading, kind of, more in the action than like a more slow paced kind of survival horror thing where it's like, okay, well, they're slowly moving and I have 2 bullets. So like, do I want to use it now? It feels a lot more like you have a lot more agency than that. But yeah, that was the saga mission essentially.
So is the takeaway, because everyone's so hot on this game, it seems like, with every preview that they get, and is it I know it's too simplistic, but the basic idea is it's like Resident Evil 2 Remake, but if the story was more compelling and it was more trippy and bold and weird.
In a sense, but honestly, I think RE2 is too traditionally survival horror to be compared to Alan Wake 2. Like, I do think Alan Wake 2 is a little bit more action-y.
Sure.
And I think the nature of the puzzles are different in the sense that, like, when I think Resident Evil 2 puzzles, I think meticulous hunting for a really specific and odd clue. I'm like looking for the shape of an eagle and the wing of a bird or something, you know?
Love it.
And Alan Wake 2's puzzles, granted, I haven't had like a lot of interactions with them because the previews weren't like terribly long, but it felt a little bit more traditional. It's something like, you know, you read a note and you also have like that mind board that kind of helps you clue things together. It's a little more, not in a negative way, but it is a little bit more handholdy. While Resident Evil's puzzles are very like in the language of Resident Evil. Like if you've played these games, you know you have to pick up the weird shape and rotate it, and then it'll cast a shadow and a door will open. Like this is more traditional in some regards, but then cerebral when it wants to get trippy. So the more intriguing aspects of the puzzle solving for me in this preview came from the Alan Wake mission, which was like the 5th Alan Wake mission in the Dark Place. You go to the Ocean View Hotel, which is like not the Control Hotel, it's a different hotel, but it's a Ocean View Hotel, and it's a lot of trippy reality stuff. Like Alan Wake has this mechanic that involves lining up these beams of light, almost like Viewfinder, like the gameplay of Viewfinder, where once they collide, it again changes like what you're looking at. So it's a lot of, it's not quite as wild as, oh my gosh, what is that thing from Control? Like the best area in the game, like the action level that everyone loved.
Astral Maze? Is that what it's called?
The Ashtray Maze, I think.
Yeah,
Ashtray. I knew it was like something related to a cigar. I was going to say like
so
cigar box.
It's not like it's on that level. That's like one of the best moments in video games, the Ashtray Maze. But the idea of entering a space and while it's mundane, not being quite able to figure it out was very reminiscent in like the Ocean View Hotel, where you'll get to a point where you can't like open any of the doors. So you're thinking, okay, well, what key do I have? Okay, I have a key for this specific door and only this one. But once I open this one, now I'm in like this new area, or I'm suddenly in this theater. And then if I change the light, like now there's like people performing, or it's full, or it's empty, or like what, you know, it kind of is. It's the same space, but the space continuously changes in a way that I think was really intriguing for both exploration and puzzle solving.
Sure.
And in both Saga and Alan Wake sections, I do feel like there's a lot of content in terms of going off the beaten path, because like in Saga section, there's like a lot of lockboxes the cult left around that has like really cool, like, you know, weapons and stuff inside, but you got to find the code. And it's like, oh, I wonder where can I find that? Like, what do I have to do? So I like, and it's kind of one of my favorite things in a game of this kind of scope, where it's not like it's a massive open world game, where it's a tight, confined kind of sections, but there's a lot to do in there, and there's like a lot of juice that you can squeeze out of that orange, and the game facilitates you doing that. Like, one cool thing that stood out to me too from the Alan Wake section is you have sort of like upgrades available. So if you find these, like, there's like this text scrawled in different places in like a circle, and if you shine your light on it, you like attain those words. And then if you go back to like, I forgot what his mind palace place is called, but if you go to that space, you can then select like an upgrade based on the words you get. And some of them are like, the last bullet in the chamber does extra damage. And like, I got that one, and I was like, okay. And then,
that's a cool idea.
Even though I do think at the end of the day, this is like a narrative atmosphere puzzle game that has like some cool action. Like the action is kind of, despite being good, is probably still like one of the less intriguing things, only because the other things are so intriguing.
Right.
I like that they still have like ways to also maybe lean into that, or buff you up, or cater to your play style in a way that I think is super interesting, and that I appreciated just in that brief like 90-minute time. But yeah, this game's awesome. TLDR is like, I was looking forward to it from what I saw, and playing it only made me more confident that this game is going to be like an absolute banger. Like, I think it's going to be on a lot of top 10 lists. Like, I think people are going to really adore this, and like, I cannot wait. Like, this is like this is, I don't know, it's like the culmination of so much good stuff, because it's like Remedy really has hit their stride, I think, in how they make games, and they always had cool ideas. So it's like, it's like the love of the cool stuff from Alan Wake with the quality of Control, and you like mash them together, let alone if you're, you know, like Haley, and you're like, I already liked Alan Wake from the jump as it was. Like, I think it's going to have so much additional richness and fun to dig into. Like, I can't wait for the full release.
With a splash of the action from that Crossfire X single player campaign. Just all of the magic of Remedy. October.
I beat that thing. I played it.
And how was it?
I'm really looking forward to Alan Wake 2.
Alan Wake 2, ladies and gentlemen. October 27th is when this thing is coming out. They bumped it just a little bit. Also, we should say that we might be doing the deepest dive on Alan Wake 2. Here's what the plan is, everybody. We are going to let you vote, because October is so stacked that if you're a supporter of MinnMax on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, we say it all the time, but we say it in the hopes that you type that URL into a browser and actually check it out, because there's some cool benefits there for you. But if you're a supporter at any tier, even the $2 tier, you can vote next week, the first week of October, because we're going to be locking in what game we're tackling for the deepest dive, which is our huge multi-part game club discussion. It's going to be between, of course, Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, and Super Mario Wonder. Those big October releases, and Janet's smirking because she thinks including Wonder is a disaster. I like having the option for Nintendo people. I do think we can have a fun conversation about Wonder.
I think it's going to split the vote, because I don't think, I'll be honest, I know, prove me wrong if y'all want to, because I guess I'll pull up to the deepest dive on Wonder if we have it, but like, I just feel like it's going to split the vote.
I don't think so.
The other 2 games.
Because that's going to be the Nintendo.
Because I don't think it's going to win. I'll be honest. I don't think y'all want it like that. Like,
I don't think Wonder's going to win either. It'd be interesting.
I think like 8 of y'all will want it, and then those 8, like, go ahead, throw your votes away. Like, we've seen this happen in American democracy so many times.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. Let's all get on the same page
like
and
the
unite.
Central party.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, look, it's cool in concept. Let's all get to where we know we're gonna go.
Well, I do think the new voice actor for Mario is Ross Perot. They actually just used an AI to generate his voice.
Is he alive?
Sam Lake.
No, God, that's what's twisted about it.
Oh, wow.
So there's no PR gaffes from Ross anymore. Anyways, the point is you get to vote if you're a Patreon supporter between those 3. And again, you say it'll split the vote. I'm curious. And here's the thing.
For Alan Wake.
We're not telling you to do nothing. I'm not telling you to do nothing.
I say vote for Alan Wake.
I'm just saying vote for what you think the most interesting deepest dive will be. That's all I'm going to say.
All I'm saying is Alan Wake 2 is episodic, which makes it very easy to do a deepest dive.
All I'm saying
with like musical credits.
There's a lot of like
It's
notes
really cool.
and like trippy TV stuff and
Perfect.
Lottie's in it, kind of like it's. I don't know.
But Spider-Man has Spider-Man.
it does have
Spider-Man has Spider-Man. And Spider-Man. Like, that's double the Spider-Man. Also, I'm drinking out the Spider-Man mug now for the video watching.
Subliminal. I need to get a Mario Wonder mug, but
anyway,
hey,
there's 2 great options and Mario Wonder. So
I think Mario Wonder would be cool to talk about. I think
Should we be
fun.
clear? Like, it's Mario Wonder. I think I speak for everyone when I say we're all very excited for it.
Yeah.
We just don't know if it's gonna make for a great extended conversation.
I mean, again, if it gets picked, I'm ready to go ham on like the jump physics or whatever the deepest dive for that would be, because it would have to be like hardcore level design discussion. Like it's gonna be good no matter what, because we're good at what we do.
Ooh.
But what do you want to listen to? And I'd be surprised if y'all really want to listen to like a deepest dive on Mario Wonder.
Hey,
that's just me.
We're just letting you vote, everybody. So all next week, the first week of October.
We're so invested. Like, we give the control away, and then we're like, but please do what we want.
Well, okay, I wasn't gonna let the record show. I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna sit here and be quiet. And then Ben's like, I can see Janet smirking over. It's like, like, okay, well, if you want to dance, we can dance.
And then
you called me up, and then you're like, whoa, reel it in. Like,
and everybody's happy to dance. We're doing a big old hoedown over on Patreon, everybody. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Let's keep this party rolling. Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways. The DLC came out last week. This is the first big DLC for Resident Evil 4. I guess they've had updates and here and there and all that
Mercenaries
stuff.
things.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's weird to boot up Resident Evil 4 again and just like seeing the costumes that are in there now. I was not paying attention to what was going on with the costume world, but like you can just play as like a goth-looking Leon, or like Ashley's has like a punk rock costume. It's really mind-boggling what they're doing with that game these days.
Is anyone a lifeguard in this?
Basically, they're all lifeguards. Yeah, all the Ganados are lifeguards. It's pretty sweet. But this is
outfits.
Oh yeah. So this is the
Chief under that bus.
This is the Ada campaign. So you can play through from the mysterious point of view of Ada in Resident Evil 4, and it's a remake in its own way of the Ada campaign that was in, Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, the PS2 version of Resident Evil 4, right? That's where they added that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So Resident Evil 4 came out early 2005 on GameCube, and then later that year it came to PS2 with the Separate Ways DLC. And then, as far as I know, it's been part of every re-release. It's just part of the package at this point.
Right. I had never played the original, so I was really curious to see what this was going to be like.
I went into it genuinely not sure if I did or not. I don't think I ever did, because I played it right when it came out on GameCube, and GameCube did have Ada missions in it, but they were really short. And this is, and I've played it through its entirety on other platforms, but I really don't know if I ever played it or not. I really can't remember.
Oh, weird. And then Haley, you've had the weirdest experience, right?
I played Resident Evil 4, like the original one, like a year and a half ago. I did that because my partner and I at the time were doing a podcast. We can't do it anymore because there's not enough time in the day. But we would just go back and forth and make each other play games that we liked, but kind of thought the other one might not.
Right.
We're gonna just like yell it. I'm mean to him. I don't care. It's not some associate online. Like I'm like, that's trash. Like, you're trash. Like that was kind of.
Wait,
like,
are you holding back from us? Is that what we're learning here?
Yeah, insult us like you insult the person you love the most, please.
I'll insult y'all more. Love y'all. I'll be mean
to
you more.
Thank you.
Because, like, go ahead.
I don't want to be mean. Someone be mean to me.
Okay, so that's two insults, one no insult.
See, I don't like
got
that.
you.
Not bad.
But so he made me play Resident Evil 4. I also played Dark Souls. He made me play some hard games. I gave him Sunshine, Twilight Princess, and Night in the Woods. Sunshine's hard. And he gave me Dark Souls, Death Stranding, and Resident Evil 4.
Perfect.
This is like when I did this with books and someone gave me The Odyssey. I had to read the entirety of The Odyssey.
Got to.
Shout out to Robert Fagel's edition because it has like great annotations. But Jesus Christ, why did I get that? Like that's not even.
So you played the original Resident Evil 4 last year, and you haven't played the remake, but you played the Separate Ways DLC?
Yeah, you know what's so funny is I entered into the game because my partner bought it on our PS5, and he played it. He's beaten it. He's played it like 4 or 5 times. He's trophy hunting, like loves it. And I would watch him, but I just recently played 4, so I was like, I appreciate that I would like this and probably jump into it, but there was just other stuff going on, so I didn't play it.
Yeah.
And then we were going to talk about the Separate Ways, so I was like, I'll play the Separate Ways. So I booted up on my profile, and the game was so funny. It was like, what are you doing? It was like, go play the game. And it said 2 times. I was like, Separate Ways. It was like, we highly recommend you go play the game. And I said, no. And then I clicked start DLC, and it was like, no, like, go, what are you doing? Like, go play the game.
Serious.
And I said, no again. And then it let me play Separate Ways DLC.
So what was it like jumping?
It did not want me.
What was it like jumping right into Separate Ways then?
The game's still the same, but obviously, like, these remakes change a lot of it. Like, not just cutscenes or the vibe of things, but they also, like, get rid of bad places.
They reworked Resident Evil 4 remake.
What bad places in Resident Evil 4? I don't think so. I think everything they removed for the remake was a mistake.
And then the fun thing, without spoiling too much, is some of the things that then they cut for the remake then in Separate Ways. It's like, all right, here you go, dorks. We'll give you a little taste of the thing that you've been screaming about was lacking in the original Resident Evil 4 remake. But like, did it feel wild to jump in there? Like going from the original to flying around as Ada with a grappling hook, like that must have been jarring.
Oh, the grappling hook's sick.
It
was fun to be Ada because she's hot as hell. She's better at everything than Leon, and she's fun. Like that's the gist. Like I'm like, hell yeah, I want to be Ada. Like she's so fun. And I love the fact that you're like seeing Leon doing stuff. She'll be like, ugh, anyways, and like move on and do her.
That is really
thing.
The lesson for this game, from takeaway from Separate Ways, is at all points in Resident Evil 4's critical moments, Ada is watching you, which is always like a big thing. Resident Evil 4 is like, oh, Ada's outside the window and she'll shoot this guy in the head at just the right time. But it's like there's so many scenes in here where she's just like the Watcher from Marvel, just like staring at Leon going about his journey.
It's also nice to role play as someone with a crush on Leon.
Oh, interesting.
Just having a crush on
that not
I don't even have to
as the whole time?
Yeah, I don't have to role play. I have a crush on Ada and Leon. This is like a bisexual dream.
I was literally thinking that. I'm so glad you said that. Like that's a lot of Resident Evil is a bisexual dream. Like RE2 is the ultimate bisexual game. All of gaming
history. That's wait, what is it called? Did I screw this joke up already? What's it called in Japan?
Biohazard.
Biohazard. That's the first 2 letters. That's what they were going for.
Yeah.
America wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. Speaking of you can buy the DLC for $10, which I was surprised
capitalism.
by. What do you mean? Actually, I was really surprised because like it took me 6.5 hours to go through this whole thing, and for $10, I think that's a great opportunity. Like
It's polished too. It's like a very good looking DLC.
Yeah, I had a blast with it. And like, of course, I get triggered a little bit online. There's a lot of debates online about like, this is a better deal than all of Resident Evil 3 Remake. I'm like, oh, okay. You don't need to bash Resident Evil 3 Remake again.
People really
it's a fun game.
Remake, but people didn't like the game when it came out. So when you remade it, it's like, oh, you remade the thing that no one liked.
Well, no, Resident Evil 3 Remake people liked. It's confusing.
It's just a RE3 remake.
It's a good game. I think it gets way too much crap. The point is,
it does get a lot of crap. That's all I know about it is that people don't like it.
It's confusing how much crap it gets. But the point is, this is great DLC, especially for like $10. It's like, it's just fun because like, I don't know, I assume other people in this same camp, but like, I have spent the rest of the year after finishing Resident Evil 4 Remake, like, God, maybe I should just go back and replay Resident Evil 4 again. Maybe I should do some New Game Plus runs. It's always in the back of my mind, like, I should really, in a perfect world, I'd just be sitting on this couch blasting through Resident Evil 4 again and again and again. And this is just like a nice way to have really just kind of an abridged version of all of Resident Evil 4 that's separate from the New Game Plus stuff. Because you're going through like all the highlights, and it wasn't that long ago that I played it, but it's still so fun to be like, oh my God, I'm getting the little biosensor as Ada. That means, okay, I'm going to be going up against our dear friends, the Regenerators. I have to deal with them. I forgot about their stupid move on the ground where they slide around like a dolphin and come and attack you. It's just like, it's all the iconic enemies and moments to Resident Evil 4, but just compacted down to this 6.5-hour campaign. And then
that was my big takeaway, was like, this is just a reminder that Resident Evil 4 Remake is freaking fantastic.
Right.
Just give me an excuse to play some more of it, please.
But then on top of that,
it makes me want to go play it now. Like that, I skipped it. I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have played it when it came out. So
the game tried to stop you, Haley.
No, the game
twice.
is so mad hearing you talk. They're like, how dare you? you know what? I wish I did played it before. If only someone told me. You had no one told you. So that's through no fault.
So if only I got multiple prompts guiding me to that decision before.
Someone should have told you. The fact they didn't, shame on them, honestly.
At least I know the plot. So it's not like I played separate ways and I'm like, who's Leon? I know what happened.
You got the idea.
What's Lewis?
Whatever. Like,
I don't care about the amber. Why are you always talking about the amber? The big thing I think for this game is just her having the little grappling hook. It's such a fun idea, because I feel like with so many Resident Evils, you're always looking at the ground trying to figure out, okay, what items am I not going to miss here? Make sure I grab everything. And then just to have this be like, every once in a while you got to look up, because there's going to be, of course, through her high-tech contact lens, even though Resident Evil 4 is set in like 2004, but she has a high-tech contact lens so she can see these grapple points. So it's just so fun to be able to look around an environment, and especially like if you're in the middle of, the village, just fighting a bunch of Ganados, and just be like, all right, so long, suckers, zoom, and just like zip line away. And you fight the El Gigante again in this DLC, and that again was when it like sealed the deal of like, God, this is so good. And having the zip line in that El Gigante fight, and especially like zip lining and grabbing on and grappling onto his little back parasite like you're Spider-Man, like that part was so good. It just elevated this experience much more than I was expecting.
It might be hard now to go be Leon, because he's
a
clunky boy on the ground.
Well, the biggest thing is having like that melee where like you'll shoot somebody from the distance as they're stumbling towards you, and then they go down, and normally it's like, okay, I got to run up and then do the classic Leon melee, suplex if you're lucky, all that fun stuff. But then in this one, it's just so satisfying to be able to just grapple hook, ring, just fly over to them and then kick them and they go flying. Or like, it sets up these scenarios over and over again in separate ways where it's like, there's two enemies like on the ledge right next to a point you can grapple to, then you grapple to it, and as she's grappling and landing on that spot, she also does this crazy kick and takes them out. Like, just Ada's movements are so fun in this thing.
I had the ability where you can pull the shield off too, which was my least favorite thing in Resident Evil 4. They have a shield, and I'm like, oh, now I have to waste like 5 bullets when I could have used 2. But she's like, yoink, and then you can just hit them in the head anyways. Oh, it's so much more satisfying.
Yeah, that was an upgrade I liked the second it made itself apparent. I was like, well, I'm getting that. I don't care if there's only one shield guy in this whole DLC. I'm going to have that equipped just because I don't want to have to waste, like you said, more shotguns ammo to like blast through the shield.
But their toes.
Yeah.
Feel it.
To me, it wasn't this like huge like re-examination of Resident Evil 4 or anything. It was just like an opportunity to play it again, sort of with like with new equipment that made it more fun. But yeah, and I liked like we kind of teased. There's a couple sequences that I wasn't expecting to be in it that are in it that I was very happy about. And I like the ending is cool too, where like Leon's in the middle of the end game boss fight, and you're running around trying to support him a little bit. Like I liked how that worked, and there's some fun, like, bigger RE lore stuff. You get to see more of Albert Wesker and, like, figure out what's going on in their relationship. He really wants that Amber. It's very important.
The Amber. It's a new age of man.
Me again. I was getting so much anxiety for her. Like, when every time he'd call, I'd be like, oh, she's gonna have to tell him she lost it.
I'm working on it. And also, he's there. He, like, walks up to her, and it's like, if this is so important to you, you're Albert Wesker. Can't you, like, kick people's heads off with superpowers?
I'm totally with you, Kyle. That was the biggest mind blow. I was like, wait, he's just there in Spain the entire time? I thought he was like back in Washington, D.C. or in Colorado still on the intercom or some nonsense, but all right.
He wants to look pretty. He wants to keep his hair coiffed. He doesn't want to go out.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
It's a good look. But yeah, the way I played it was like I streamed it for an hour over at Game Informer with the intention of like, I'll stream it, but I'm going to go finish Phantom Liberty first. But I streamed it for an hour, and then later that night when it was like time to play on my own, I was like, well, I'm not going to not play Resident Evil 4. Are you kidding me? Like, I have to go finish it first. And then I got back to Phantom Liberty, and I finished that last night. So,
good stuff with Phantom Liberty, by the way.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, a good conclusion.
Nice. I played this on Steam Deck. I played Resident Evil 4 Remake on PS5, but it's fun. I realized at a certain point, it's the like highest fidelity game I've ever played on my Steam Deck. It's like, it's just weird. Normally, it's just kind of like, I'll play Dome Keeper, just some good pick up and play game on my Steam Deck. But this is like the first time it's like, oh no, this game looks awesome, and it's so cool to have it handheld. Granted, I mean, I guess you can play it on your phone soon if you're an iPhone user, but still having it on Steam Deck was super cool. Also, it's fun that this DLC was directed by a real old timer at Capcom, Yoshinori Kawano. I always love looking these dorky things up, but Kyle, he directed Mega Man 03 for the Game Boy Advance. Like, it's been around since the Game Boy Advance era. Now he finally gets to direct a Resident Evil game, and it's this funky DLC. So yeah, 2 big thumbs up, but not a revelation, but just a fun way to re-experience
that was the DS
Resident Evil
game.
4.
This is not that.
Right. Although,
no miss jokes on this show.
Not gonna miss it.
Get ahead of
Thank you,
them.
Kyle.
I did have a moment of thinking, like, I wonder if they would do the full remake for Revelations. Maybe we're overlooking how likely that is.
No.
I mean, do you think they're going to remake everything at this point?
They are going to remake everything.
Are they just going to be running through everything?
We've talked about it 1,000 times, I feel like, but I would put money they do one before Veronica. Veronica's the cool choice, but I think
you're right.
Time. I mean, well, we've never had it in this high fidelity.
No, but genuinely, that's not even me. I know I get that sounded snippy, but like, we keep going back to 1, but like we need to go back again. Just like one more time.
One more time.
Yeah, high res. You are almost a Jill sandwich. That's like all I want from 1.
It needs to look and sound amazing when we hear it.
It needs to just high res 4K. Someone saying that. And that's all I'll care about for 1.
But I just want it to be known that I desperately would so much rather have Code Veronica, just because it is so underplayed and underdiscussed. Like it's the one that is the most like in need of an update and an opportunity for people to see that part of the Resident Evil story, which it is like weird, surprisingly super important to the larger lore if you care about that kind of thing. It is Resident Evil 3, like it, it got renamed, but it is Resident Evil 3.
Right.
But anyway.
Separate ways, available everywhere with Resident Evil 4 Remake. Janet, you've been playing this FIFA game, EA Sports FC 24. Do you play these every year? You lock it in?
Yeah, I pretty much play it every year. I will say I didn't play 23 as much as I normally have. Normally I'm going like, for the last good chunk of years, I've been going like pretty in on regularly doing tournaments with my brother. Like I really just play this game almost exclusively locally, which is a bizarro thing because most people do like the online, that's why like I don't have as much beef with FIFA / now EA Sports FC, because I don't do the like microtransaction-y, like the ultimate team, like all of that. Like I don't know what y'all are talking about. I don't know like what the problems are. Like I acknowledge I'm sure there are problems, and there are many, many great reviewers who can like dig into the weeds on that. But I just kind of keep it casual. I'm hitting the quick play. I'm doing the tournaments.
You're not buying the card packs or whatever.
Exactly. So I don't have card pack drama because I don't engage with that mechanic. But
card pack drama.
Yeah, no, the people who like they're like living a whole nother life, and it sounds like it's a tough one because I guess they mess it up every year. But sometimes I do the solo campaign, and every year for the last like 3 years, I'm like, I'm gonna do all the trainer things, and I'm gonna get really good at the game. But this year feels different. I think this year I will do it. Even though I've never done it. But I won't go too in depth because I get it. It's very niche. It's the niche thing that everyone, especially, no offense to present company, people in the games industry, unless they literally are the reviewers, they're like, oh, another one of these? Like, I don't know. But
Sports games are tough, but good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like FIFA's pretty consistent, or like an eSports FC now is the name, which is just a licensing thing. I know people are still like a lot of review taglines are like, despite the different name, it's more of the same. It's like, yeah, it's the same franchise, y'all. Like, I can't like I know we all have that idea for a good strap line, but it's not that interesting to keep saying, it may have a different name, but it's the same. Yeah, it is what you can expect from this franchise, which pretty consistently comes in from reviewers in like the low to mid 70s. I think people, the same complaints tend to go around with like the microtransactions stuff. Sometimes nitpicks on like, player performances or things like that. But I've played a couple of the quick plays, and I've done a bit of Volta last night. And genuinely, again, if you like EA Sports FC, or you just have already dug into this, or you're open to it because maybe you're into soccer, there is no thrill like it. Like, I know it's going to sound like I'm memeing or that I'm doing it for like, I don't know, the attention of it all or something, but like genuinely, if you
soccer boys are like, yeah.
Well, just like, 'cause I feel like people like think I almost talk about it because like, oh, no one wants to talk about it. But like, I genuinely play this game every year. I love it every year.
Yep.
And it's so fun. Like, if you have enjoyed the rush of watching soccer or football, however you want to call it, right? It's that same thing, but almost heightened because you're in it, which again, that is preaching to the choir if you're a sports game person. But like I was playing it last night and I was like, oh my God, I freaking love this game. And it's so funny because there's like, this is like one of the best years in gaming. So many 10 out of 10s, 9s out of 10s. The top 20 list is going to overflow this year, or aka the 210s, right? But I'm like, does anyone else just want to play FIFA? Because like it hits like nothing else. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it has so many great, and again, I don't remember all the differences between 23 and 24. So forgive me if some of these things are in 23 already, but just like the granularity you can go, like you can change like the weather, whether or not the pitch gets affected, the shading of the pitch, the ball you play with. Like, and one thing I thought was really cool is in the game settings, they seem to really, really be leaning into, if you don't know how to play the game, you could still play it. Now, admittedly, I haven't tinkered with this setting myself because I do know how to play the game, so I want control over all the things. But like, let me see, I took some screenshots of it on my phone because it goes like really, for lack of a nicer term, kind of like idiot proof with some of the mechanics. Like you can do
so I could play.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's not that complicated of a game.
You're a
like,
lawyer, Haley.
No, genuinely, like it's got like
it's got stupid with soccer though.
Oh, okay.
No, but it has stuff for that. It has stuff like you can make it so that every time you shoot, like to score a goal, the ball will generally go in the direction of the goal. Like you won't have to control that yourself if you want. And yeah, they have aim assist. It goes up really high. It can go in the middle. It can be totally off. They have that for passing, for selecting players. They have it for auto running. If you like pass the ball to somebody, you can let like the AI kind of take over to a degree. They have, they even have like a marker for offsides. Like that. I know it's like a big, if you don't watch soccer, I think one of the biggest things that people struggle with is understanding what offsides is, which is like you cannot pass and have like your foot leave the ball and then have like your player that you're passing to not have a defender in front of them. That's like what offside. If you're just out there alone, you're offsides. And like that's just a rule in soccer, and it like trips a lot of people up. And they have in the game, and granted, they're machines replicating professionals, so you're not offsides a lot anyway because players tend to position themselves so they're not offsides, but you can have a marker that shows like an offsides flag. There's indicators to talk about like players' play styles. So I think it's a really fun way to also get to know, again, you can just kind of get more immersed in the hobby. So like understanding who different role players on different teams are, like by seeing, what's their style of play. Like I haven't dug too much into like all the different indicators, but they have like a whole web page that shows like, okay, this player plays this way. They're known as like having this style, and you can kind of match it up that way.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, just a bunch of cool handholdy stuff. As always, I still want more from the game. I want more teams. I'm bummed as hell that Liga MX is once again not in here. That's like Mexico's MLS, essentially, like their professional league, because that's Konami got the rights to that, and I think they have the rights to that for like a while, but like that's one of the main leagues I play as. So I'm like, damn, is that ever coming back? Because like the Konami game did not work out. Like no one likes that game. They freaking hated it. Like everyone hated it. Everyone hated it. It turned out terrible. So I'm like, I'm kind of bummed about that still. But they are making strides with things like having a more robust representation of the women's game in soccer.
Cool.
Has been improving year over year. But yeah, for the, I'm hardcore casual, so I still want, can we get some more house rules? Can we get some more like stuff going on with the more pick up and play moments of the franchise? But yeah, every year, what is now EA Sports FC is a great game. I enjoy it every year. I put hella hours into it every year.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this year is not going to be any different. My brother's coming over, I think, tomorrow, like for my piano lesson. And afterwards, I'm like, yo, you want to play some EA Sports FC? Because like I'm so excited to get back into
FIFA.
it. I did. It's hard.
FIFA.
I know it's hard not to say it. It's funny because it still has all the teams. Like it just doesn't have FIFA. The soccer organization was like
Gotcha.
they could not reach an agreement
Yeah.
on the finances regarding the name. So that's why it's not FIFA anymore. But yeah, should be a fun time. I will say I'm rusty as hell and I suck really bad right now. So my passes are just like not landing right. Like they're either too weak or too hard. So
Turn on baby mode.
I need to fix that up a little bit. But yeah, excited to get back into it. Play against my brother. The only other person I play against really is Blessing. Sometimes my boyfriend Isaiah, because he's like starting to get into soccer now. Like we got like the MLS pass on Apple TV and like we're watching all the Galaxy games and we're watching Inter Miami FC because Messi's there. And yeah, I'm one of those basic Messi people. Like it's just good to watch him play. He's so freaking good. Like it's insane.
There's a reason why I know his name. And I don't know.
Yes, he's like, it's just like
Is he the one dating Taylor Swift?
No,
Yes,
but that's
he
why I
is.
get a load
Yes,
of
he
this.
is.
I have a whole thing for that. But anyway, that's my EA Sports FC
No, love it.
rant. It's fun every time. We'll see how things go and if I can actually do the training this time and really learn the game
Yeah.
and not just like I have a base level skill and understanding, but I'd like to get like actually good at it. So we'll see.
Sweet.
That's a year from now. You're an esport pro.
I know, honestly, like I have so much freaking fun with this franchise. Like you have no idea. But anyway,
That's fun.
Kyle, how much time in your life have you spent playing Mega Man Soccer?
When I learned of its existence as a child, I got it on an emulator and a ROM, and I played it for like half an hour or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you smiled?
Is that more or less than you expected?
I think that's about right.
You
That
smiled.
is, nobody on Earth has played more than half an hour of Mega Man Soccer, yet everybody lightly appreciates the fact that it happened. Because it's
We're all happy it exists, and we're all surprised. We all have that moment where we're like, what? That's a thing? And then we live our lives.
And then we go on with our lives, and we lead our lives to one conclusion. This is a gross thing to say. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. I mean, Haley, do you know how this whole thing operates?
I think I do. I think it's the thing you just said.
Mega Man Soccer! That's right,
Yeah,
everybody.
that's
Go find a tier that works for you. Find something that's sustainable. That's how you keep independent games media sustainable. So there are sweet benefits for you there. Check it out and vote for the next deepest dive if you're a supporter at any tier. Thank you to some of our
Alan Wake.
thank you to some of our biggest supporters, like Liquid IV. It's proper functional hydration, they want you to know, is essential. And Liquid IV is the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Their hydration multiplier, listen up gamers, is the one product you're missing in your daily routine. 1 stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficiently than water alone. Basically, once you've had Liquid IV, going back to water, it's like drinking salt water. It
will kill you.
It will murder you.
I
IV,
bought some
everybody.
today, Ben.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
do you use
I picked
our
some up from
code that Ben's
Target.
gonna say in a few seconds?
No,
Surely
they
you
had it
did.
at Target because I wanted like non-flavored. I got some Gatorade stuff that was like electrolyte boosting, but it was like glacier cherry, and I was like, nah, I want water flavor. Give me that.
Right, and Liquid IV. But they do
Flavor
have,
is water.
it's water. But they do have 12 total flavors for Liquid IV. And before I've said, like, we sent a lifetime supply of this stuff to Jenna Stieber because she was on the podcast every episode during paternity leave. I filled out a form. They sent some to my place. I finally got to try this legendary Liquid IV. Turns out it's really good. And I was really delighted they had like white grape, which I'm a sucker who loves some good white grape juice.
White grape.
And so having like, electrolyte packed white grape flavored water was exactly up my alley, and so I've enjoyed it every day. And it comes with like a bunch of cute bottles and stuff like that. It contains 5 essential vitamins. Name an essential vitamin, Kyle, because it's in there.
Calcium.
No. Haley?
Is that a vitamin?
Potassium? That's
Iron?
Probably
No.
not.
The way you go off script with these is always a ride in itself.
That's right, Janet. B3, B5, B6, B12, and vitamin C. Made with 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks.
That should have been my first suggestion.
Come on, man. And as they always say, Liquid IV, real people, real flavor, real hydrating. Grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco.
Upsetting phrasing.
I remember that. I did listen to that episode, actually.
It is upsetting how good of a discount this is. You get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MinnMax at checkout. That's 20% off anything when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MinnMax at liquidiv.com. Thank you, Liquid IV. Also, thank you to our dear friends at I Am 8-Bit. They want you to know about a sweet new something in their store. It is the physical edition on PS5 and Nintendo Switch for Toem. Remember Toem? T-O-E-M, that black and white photography adventure game, super cool. I Am 8-Bit physical edition, the exclusive there. It includes 4 character standees, allowing you to photograph your favorite characters in the wild, just like in the game. Oh, that's a fun idea. And then also there's the double vinyl soundtrack for Toem as well. And you can go check out I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store. Use the promo code Return of Chicken Boy. Return of Chicken Boy for 10% off of everything in their online store under $100. Help support them because they are fantastic. Again, I can't sing the praises of I Am 8-Bit enough. They've been great partners with us for years now, and like we might. Oh yes, Haley.
Sorry, I'm excited. My client's game is getting a soundtrack being released by I Am 8-Bit.
Really?
I'm excited to buy it. Yeah, little to the left.
Little to the left. Oh, sweet, sweet, sweet. That's
okay.
awesome. So yes, check out all that stuff at I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store. Use that promo code Return of Chicken Boy, no space. And I Am 8-Bit is so generous that each and every week they ship out a prize for somebody in the MinnMax community. If you support MinnMax at any tier on Patreon, you can submit a question or comment each and every week for the MinnMax show to help make the show better. And then we choose our favorite and they win a prize this week. Of course, if you have the best question submitted over on Patreon, I Am 8-Bit just ships you a cassette version of the Super Mario Brothers movie soundtrack. Which, how delightful would that be to go out to your mailbox and it's a cassette of the Mario Brothers movie soundtrack? That would make your day, and your day could be made if you support us on Patreon and submit a question and make the show better, please. By the way, I Am 8-Bit just sent over like the Mario Brothers movie soundtracks, and so I got it on vinyl and I put it on my record player the other day, and then Kyle, I just literally put it on and then just sat back on my couch downstairs and just listened to how good that soundtrack is. Like, it's such a fun soundtrack for that movie. Anyways, why do that on vinyl when you have it on cassette? And Kyle, why are you muted when you could be talking?
I know, I was just going to complain about the licensed music in Mario Brothers movie and that I wish they had just used their orchestrated soundtrack the whole time. I was muted because I was eating a raspberry.
Oh, thank you. Hey, here we go. Virgil B over here. They say, hey, unlocking costumes in Mortal Kombat 1 has been really fun. There's something empowering about getting new costumes for your characters. Which games have you enjoyed unlocking costumes in? Which games have your favorite character designs? Okay, so costume-specific character designs. Yeah, when you think of like unlocking costumes being satisfying, what's the number one go-to in your mind?
Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, that was very satisfying.
Yeah, you're right, man. I didn't think, because my default is like, I don't really care about costumes too much. It's not a big deal. Even Spider-Man, hot take. I know, Janet, we talked about it. I'm like, I don't really care too much about the other suits unless it's like that animated suit or something wild. But you're right, Mario Odyssey was always exciting, totally.
I'm the opposite. I love costumes and everything. Like I am obsessed with like the aesthetics, the just nonsense of it. Like I'm doing that now in Lies of P, which like you get costumes really like barely in Lies of P, which I wish they gave them to you more often. But like when I killed that donkey guy and like I got to wear like his head mask thing and now I'm a donkey sailor boy.
That's
like
perfect.
I don't understand how like that can't do anything for everybody. You know what I mean? Like this is the pinnacle. So like just kind of really almost any game.
Yeah.
Like all I want to do is buy clothes.
I mean,
dress up.
my big quote unquote problem is I just want to look like the character on the box,
Yes.
so to speak. Like that's the best design. So I just want to look as cool as that. You know, that's the one that they've all worked on and decided should be the lead marketing like push. This is what this character looks like. I'm like, yeah, that's who I want to play as. So if it's like gives me some corduroy pants or something, I'm like, no, I don't really need these.
Maybe
Not even that daring of a change. Just some corduroy pants.
maybe it's because like
Whoa.
I don't want to point fingers, but maybe it's because you don't have like, and again, a person in a glass house, yada yada
Careful.
yada. But maybe you just don't have like a strong fashion sense. But maybe that's what the secret is. If you have, Okay, this isn't.
I would not take that at all.
That's why I didn't aim it at you. No, but you know that. No, Kyle, stay. But you know, maybe people who are like really into fashion, that's the thrill. But like for boring corduroy boys like us, like I don't think there's any clothes that I can lock in a game where we'd be like, this is how I express. I have never once thought in my life that I express myself through my clothes. And maybe that's the ingredient that we're missing for not being more into costumes in games.
What's on your shirt right now? It looks expressive and colorful. There's some stuff going on.
It's a Mexican honey piece of artwork from a brewery. It's a certain type of beer in Minneapolis. So I guess I'm expressing.
So that's where you buy your shirts, Ben? Breweries?
Yes, primarily.
Admittedly, for a time in college, I bought a lot of my shirts at breweries as well.
It's all I know. Do they sell them other places?
It's all I know. I've never heard of a store except
a clothing store. It's just all merch.
That's it. Ryan writes in with a very similar question saying, why do so many games with deep character customization / creators insist on using a singular, unchanging protagonist for marketing / box art? The most recent example I've seen is Cyberpunk with Phantom Liberty. It also happens with Shepard in Mass Effect and The Hunter in Bloodborne, to name a few. It feels weird that I can look at the box art from Mass Effect 1 through 3 and say, that's Commander Shepard. He's an iconic video game character that most people would recognize, even though my Shepard looked nothing like him. Am I crazy? It is interesting. I think it's a real struggle for a game like Cyberpunk to emphasize your own player creation, but also we need to have key art. And as somebody who makes a lot of thumbnails, for podcasts and YouTube and stuff, like I cannot stress enough the importance of having clear, recognizable key art. Like it is so rough when they announce a new game and there's just nothing to grab onto. And especially games where you can create your own character, it's like I need to have a symbol or just a clear signal for we're talking about this game. Like that is what's going to pop. And it's just a sea of options. It's tough. So I understand it's messy. Like, yeah, I look at Male Shep. I don't know who that dude is. I've never met him before in my life, but I understand that he's almost the logo for Mass Effect at this point. I think you just got to do it if you're a game with deep customization, just for the sake of branding.
The funny thing about Cyberpunk is like they have so many V action figures.
Right.
It just seemed that seemed misguided to me. It's like, I understand you want to get like merchandise out for Cyberpunk. It's going to, at the time it was going to be this big hit. But it's like, I just don't think that you can use the default character in the character creator. You have to do the secondary characters for figures. It's just like
Baldur's Gate 3 did that just recently. Like their statue is one of the monsters, and then like the Tav, like the basic character you could be. But I almost want it to be like, Karlach or Gale or someone, because I know who they are. This is just like someone I didn't make. So who on my desk? ? Yeah, it feels weird.
I think I told you that story before, Kyle, but when I went to Bungie, maybe the first time it would have been the second time. It would have been for Destiny the Taken King. And they're like, hey, we got a present for you. I was like, okay, what's this? It's always awkward. And they made action figures of our Destiny characters, our Destiny 1 characters, because they got
cool.
they got our PlayStation usernames. They asked ahead of time. I was like, that's weird, but sure, here you go. And so they're able to like download like I know, but it was wild. But then the embarrassing thing is like, I don't care what I look like in games, so I just look like an asshat. And I was like hot purple clothes with like green glowing neon pants, like just whatever.
But it's still a choice. I feel like you're like, I don't make choices. I just go. But like, that's still a choice.
I guess the choice was I want to look as obnoxious as possible because I don't really care what my character looks like at this point in Destiny 1. I guess that's true. If you've listened to the podcast, you get the idea. And then I felt so bad because Matt Miller, who's on the trip, who's now the editor-in-chief of Game Informer, he's like, you need to hang on to this forever. This is going to be worth a fortune. It's a custom Destiny doll. Like, I promise I will not hang on to it forever.
I don't think it'll be worth a fortune. It's like too specific. But it's very, that is like so cool. I feel like that is the ideal of being able to get like your character. Like that's really cool.
Yeah. I think we auctioned off for Extra Life. Yeah.
Do you remember that time Game Informer got a box of just terrible clothes and we all opened the box and laughed at it? Like, who would wear these? And then as a joke, you took them home and wore them the next day. And then after about like an hour in the morning, you're like, well, now I look like an asshole the rest of the day.
I do, honestly, yes, because it pops up in my Google Photos, like, remember on this date 7 years ago.
It almost comes back to the Google Photos.
And it's a picture of me like in the Game Informer bathroom taking a photo in the mirror of just like making a stupid duck face because it was like Jinx or some gamer logo was all like hardcore camo
like purple
gamer
camo or something.
Can you put this on the Instagram this week?
Yeah, I suppose I probably could. But honestly, every time it pops up on Google Photos, I'm like, That's a weird joke for me to make like a big joke about just dressing like an asshole for a day. That seems uncomfortable now even to reflect
Someone
back
who owns
on.
that shirt will see it and be like, oh, crap.
Maybe, you know what? Honestly, maybe I looked better. I'm sure I did look more stylish and cool.
So what's with the clothes though? It's just like random clothes, or was it merch from a game?
No, it was like, I don't, a new gamer,
it was like a gamer
brand.
They're like, hey, we have a hot new line of gamer clothes, and it's like, oh, okay.
We dress and sweat so different. We need special threads. Soak it all up.
But it was a funny bit, Kyle.
It was. I remember it. It still makes me laugh. It
God.
makes me chuckle. I just remember at like 3:00 in the afternoon, you editing at your desk, just clearly like, what
Miserable.
have I done?
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you wear your Halloween costume to the office. It's like, okay, it was fun for the first half an hour seeing everybody's, and now what have we done? Hey, which reminds me of Catherine Gilbert's question saying, hey everyone, what's the top Halloween costume this year? Last year, it was Wednesday from the Addams Family, but what do y'all think it's going to be this year?
I think Joel and Ellie will be popular because of the show.
Oh,
no, it's Ken from Barbie.
It's going to be
Ken.
Yep.
It's going to be Ken.
Yep. I think
Not Barbie.
I mean,
Ken.
yeah.
I think Alan's going to be huge from Barbie too. Like, I think anything Barbie related.
They're going to say Alan Wake.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hang on.
Like a professor overcoat, you know, like cut out the elbows. You're good to go.
The best part of Halloween is explaining who you are to everybody.
Yeah, and Haley, you could
the worst.
conquer all of the Halloween parties in Nova Scotia by going as Alan Wake, but it's a combination of the Barbie character Alan and then Alan Wake. Just think of it.
Oh my god.
Oh my God, that would be actually really cool. But
We would think you're
So
cool.
which part is which? I mean, you got to do the Alan shorts, right? And then the top half is
Right.
Alan Wake, right?
And then
Yeah.
long, kind of messy hair for Alan Wake.
Yeah, and you have a flashlight and a bunch of Energizer batteries that you're shoving into it. Yeah, I think it's going to be tough to defeat Barbie. I didn't think of Last of Us though. That's probably going to be a biggie. That was this year. God, I forget. It feels like so
I know,
long
that
ago.
seems forever ago.
I hate that we're gonna inevitably get the couple that dresses as Joel and Ellie, which is so uncomfortable. Like, can we not? Like,
And then they're in the corner. They think no one's seeing this,
you already
kiss each
know.
other.
You,
You're like,
you know what I'm
"Oh."
talking about, Haley. You know exactly
disgusting.
the problems.
Yes.
So this is unearthing.
You're like, that's not allowed. Your father and daughter. Stop
Yeah.
it right now.
Do
That's
you
always the
think,
worst.
I'll make Kyle Google it, but do you think there's like a thriving fan art community of like Gel and Oli?
Let me Google it. Yes, of course there is.
Is there? Okay. People in the
You
backstage.
don't have to ask. Whatever you're thinking, there's a thriving community that ships
Yeah.
it. No matter how depraved and horrible it exists.
Speaking of depraved and horrible, Bobby Mack in the backstage pass, he points out that Mario is going to be big this year for costumes too. Like there's always, hey, we're the Mario Kart family, but this year, especially after the Mario movie, like that's going to be colossal.
The Mario Kart family.
You've never met a Mario Kart family? They don't roam your neighborhoods?
Ben, do you plan on being a Mario Kart family?
No, but I was really excited because we got like all of my kids' clothes are just like hand-me-downs from my sister. And so it's very fun because she's like, oh, here's a bunch of Halloween costumes from my boys. Like, oh, awesome. So we're going through all of them. And it's very fun to get to choose it because we got options now. And it's like, okay, he can either be cute baby lion or baby skeleton. It's like, pff, baby skeleton's the coolest. Oh, yes, baby skeleton. Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry, Mr. Lion. But
are you really excited for holidays now that you have a baby? Is it going to hit so different?
Oh,
probably.
it is.
It probably
Totally.
like reignites the magic of youth.
Are you a Go Meet Santa person?
I haven't had to think about that yet. Personally or for my child?
For your child. I mean, I think you're kind of old to meet Santa. No offense.
I've never met the dude.
Are you guys gonna do Santa Claus?
I don't think so. The way
we didn't.
Santa's kind of scary.
For us.
Is a thing.
Santa
That was
is
like
scary.
opting out on him in general. Like he's not going to exist. You mean?
Oh, that's another question. I was just talking about the photo
he
at the mall.
exists as much as like Captain America exists. He's just a fictional character
Right.
who's fun to.
Yeah.
Hey, Captain America's real to me. All right.
I think I don't think
Santa's
we'll go to
real
like
to me.
the mall. Santa seems like too much, but the way my family did it was my dad. Once I learned more about Santa Claus, my dad was like adamant, where he's like, "I never lied to you. I never lied. You just never asked. Like if you ever would have asked, I would have told you exactly what's
I feel
going
like that's
on."
something you would do though. Is the thing. Like you seem like a technicality person.
Yeah, I should have been more inquisitive even as a kid. Brady
I
Griffith.
just wonder if you're going to get as into it as dipping your shoes in flour and stomping
Yeah.
across.
Yeah, are you going to be Santa? That's the other thing, too.
Like leaning
sometimes
into
the
the
parent
illusion.
is the Santa.
That's
kind of stuff
sound
you got to
fun.
clean up the next day. What are you doing?
Oh,
You think the kid would say this is flour, not snow? Also, if they thought for 2 freaking seconds,
what is it,
they
the
never
wolf
do.
from Pulp Fiction? They're not like tasting everything. Anyways, Brady Griffith says, what do you think about the ethics of watching a single player campaign on YouTube instead of buying the game? I played Mortal Kombat X and I found that I just don't really care for fighting games, but the story is interesting. Is it bad to watch the story from Mortal Kombat 11 and then Mortal Kombat 1 on YouTube instead of playing the game? I mean,
No.
I think you're
No,
okay.
Live your life.
You live your life. You know, it'd be cool if you wanted to support them, but they're going to sell a gazillion copies. I think they'll be doing okay without you.
That's the quid pro quo. They get free marketing, and maybe someone else buys it, but you don't. Otherwise, you might have never heard about the game if a lot of people weren't watching it online. They
Right.
know that that's how it works. It's not like they're like, no. They want people to make videos for you to watch.
Yeah, unless you're Nintendo, like 10
Yeah.
years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which even they have somewhat eased up
Yeah.
on
Oh, yeah.
that stuff, which is like wild that they even have. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Because the thing is, it's not the same as playing. Like,
Yeah.
it just isn't. Like, you know, like, and it doesn't mean that it's less valid of a way to experience the game, but it just isn't the same thing. It's like someone who wants to, the whole point of this person's post is like, I'm not going to play it. I'm not interested in it. I just want to check out the story.
Yep.
Like, if it wasn't for YouTube, they're just read it on Wikipedia. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like they
just do
clearly
it.
don't want to play it. So it's not like, you're not going to meet the person who's like, I was going to buy it, but because I saw a Let's Play, I decided now I no longer want to buy it. Like, that
Yeah.
person doesn't exist.
I have a weird relationship with Mortal Kombat too, where like I don't want to get good fighting a computer. Like I'm happy to like build up my fighting game skills if I have like a friend who I can be competitive with, you know. But like when I played that game, bump that crap down to easy, fly through it. Like I love that story, but you know, so I feel like playing on easy for Mortal Kombat 1, like it's not that far away from just watching it on YouTube, to be honest. But it rules. Hugo Pereira writes in and says, since we were robbed, thanks to Patreon supporters, of another episode of Haley's Laws, Claws and Claws,
I know.
I'd love to hear her thoughts on the Unity's resolution and walkbacks, especially in regards of the fact they're now saying the terms of service you're bound to are the ones shipped with the version of Unity you're using, and what happens retroactively if they change that verbiage down the line. Okay, there's a lot here, Haley. We talked about it and how stupid of a thing this was a while back on the podcast. They've walked it back to the point of, do you remember all the details? What are they saying now?
I was reading it before this. So now they're saying the fee no longer applies to Unity personal users, and then Unity Pro and Enterprise developers have the option to avoid the charge in exchange for 2.5 revenue share instead of a flat time fee. So you have an option to choose between like the lesser of the two. And now it's
Okay.
self-reported revenues, which I thought was a huge thing because before they were like, trust us, bro, on the numbers. We have a proprietary number crunching software and you can never check our numbers,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
weird
ridiculous.
that they used bro in the legalese. That was like a
Yeah.
big red flag. I'm not a lawyer, but like that's
Kind of made me like them a bit. I
Yeah.
thought, that's kinda cool.
Quid pro bro.
The kind of terms you could have a beer with, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think, Haley? Mission accomplished? Everything's good and juicy now?
I mean, it's better, but they like did so much brand harm. Like the whole with these kind of when you're a software for a service, one of the biggest values you can have is people trusting your product, right? Like especially if it's a format where they're paying to stay with you long term, or they could leave at any time and stop paying. It's not like a one-time fee where you get Unity forever. Like you theoretically have to keep paying to keep the service going. They're not going to trust them as much anymore, really, because all it's saying is that they're willing to be that volatile if they are trapped in a corner. Like if their value keeps going down, what's to say in a year from now they feel like they have to do, now it's just the flat fee because we need to stay alive. Like they just do that again, right? And the only reason they're backtracking now is because people got so pissed. If no one had said anything, then they would have this would have been what they're doing. And they didn't, it's not the thought that they were getting away with something. They just didn't understand their marketability to the fact that they're like, this should work. And it's like, do you exist in this space with the rest of us? You know, this is a completely insane way to try to charge your users. It doesn't make any sense. If they had just done the 2.5 rev share up front, again, none of us would have talked about it because that's what everyone else does because it's predictable. And you can kind of think about it in the long term and pitch it to a publisher and say, I'm using Unity, so minus 2.5% deduction right away. And they go, okay, cool. Instead of, we might have this be a thing, ? Maybe we'll have to pay Unity. Like, they don't want to know that. They want to know exactly how much is getting deducted from day one. Otherwise, they won't work with you. And the fact that I do like the fact that you're the one reporting the numbers, not them. But still, it's just because they got in trouble, and it's just because people got mad. That's an illegal term. You get in trouble. I say that with my dog. Sorry, that's just like leaked out of my brain.
Well, John Riccatello.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, it feels like about the same level of intelligence as your dog at this point. It was bizarre. We streamed. We had Cream of the Steam, our show. We brought that back from the MinnMax studio, and it's up on MinnMax's YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But that's just us jumping through dozens and dozens of new indie games on Steam. And it made me wince every time at the boot up screen where there's the Unity logo. It's like, oh my God, like all these people are now scared for the future of game development. They're going to have to jump to a different engine if they want to feel like they're on solid ground.
Yeah, what made me really upset, like from a personal standpoint, is because I was getting emails from clients who were like, Haley, oh my God, what does this mean? Like they were, like real people are frightened. Like it sucks because they've been grinding for 4 years by themselves, working really hard, making something cool. They're just getting close to releasing it, and now this happens. Like that must be the most kick in the butt way to wake up and look at Twitter and realize that, oh my God, I might lose so much money just from one company deciding something.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's like frustrating that. I just think in the long term, I think they did too much damage for them to completely bounce back. But obviously, this is way better now that it's a rev share option, not flat fee.
Yeah, it's like if Patreon charged us for every download all of a sudden. Be like, wait, what? Like, how does
Oh my God.
What a nightmare.
Why did you even mention
Ridiculous.
that?
Don't do a Patreon, please. Danger Zone writes in, they say, howdy y'all. I love this type of submission. I truly love it. There's no question here. It's just good info. They say, howdy y'all. Does anyone still claim the Epic Game Store's free games every month? I haven't for a long time.
I never really did.
If I see a tweet that's like, hey, this is free, and it's like a game that I'm like interested in, I'll go grab it. But it's not like a destination for me every month or anything.
So Danger Zone says they're currently giving out 3 to 4 games every month. I have been regularly claiming all of the games that are free since December of 2018. Granted, I've missed a few months here and there, but my current count in my Epic library is 290 games, and only 12 of them I paid for. I feel like this was a big deal when it was announced, and I really can't believe they are still doing this. It feels like another Game Pass for me. Some notable games that have been given away for free are Death Stranding, the BioShock Collection, Remnant 1, Star Wars Squadrons, Control, Neo 1 and 2, the Arkham Trilogy, Sims 4, Subnautica. Like, it's awesome. It's like a good job, Danger Zone, for staying on top of that, and now you just have an awesome library of PC games to go to. 290! It's ridiculous.
See, that seems like Epic needs to be doing more to push those notifications out to us to be like, you want Death Stranding? Here it is for free.
Right.
I didn't know that.
But it's like that weird thing of maybe they don't want to message it too much. It's like, hey, it's here.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure Kojima would be like, shut up, if they're just like blasting it into everybody's PC, like, get it for free,
I think it's just that, like, for me, I'm not a big PC gamer.
Sure.
Like, I do, like, and when I do play on my PC, I tend to like be more on Steam. So that's really just why I haven't claimed them as much. But
let's see, we got Drake Heinhorst writes in. They say, hey, MinnMax, excited to hear you discuss Alan Wake this week. I hope you enjoyed it. As it is probably my favorite game of the 360 generation. I have a journal where I hand wrote every page of the first game's manuscript, character details, plot synopsis, control connections, loose threads, and theories for the sequel. Overall, a couple hundred pages, and I'm ready to document the sequel next month. I hope we get a deepest dive. Vote for it, Drake. You can make it happen, but you only get one vote, despite being a super fan.
Pull through for Drake, you guys. Come on. You heard that? You're not going to pull through for Drake. Come on.
Owen McCarter writes in and says, hey, crew, what is the absolute... It is funny. It's funny that it's just descended into us begging for people to vote for Alan Wake 2. But I would be delighted by Spider-Man 2. I'd be delighted by Wonder, to be very clear. I'm impartial.
For Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, Spider-Man, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Owen McCarter writes in, they say, hey crew, what is the absolute worst DLC you've ever played? I'm not talking cosmetic packs, etc. Something that added some new gameplay to the base game.
Gosh, is it 2008, The Prince of Persia? That's what we colloquially call it.
Yeah,
right?
with like the ending was DLC, is that what it was?
Yeah, there was this fantastic ending that I adore. I adore the ending of the base game. It really is. I'm not going to go into what it was, but it was like controversial. There were people that didn't like it, and as a result, they released a story DLC that basically undid it. And
that sucks.
It always bums me out so much. It was such like a brave ending to do the game, to end the game the way it did. I would relate it to like the ending of The Last of Us. Okay. Like it felt closer to that. And then the DLC just kind of undid it because they backed down after a bunch of people complained. Specifically, I remember Greg Miller at IGN complaining a lot about it.
Yuck.
And I'll never forgive him for that.
Yuck.
Like that was a great ending. So that's my answer. Yeah, the Prince of Persia 2008 DLC.
It's interesting to think about.
They changed it because of Greg Miller specifically.
Hey man, he was a loud
we can't have
voice.
This heat on us,
He's a loud man. He was always he's loud now. He was loud at IGN.
I know. I feel like that's all it takes to crumble. Maybe we don't deserve a good narrative.
It's hard because usually DLC is, if they're gonna put the effort, it's usually kind of good. So it's actually I'm having a hard time thinking of an example.
I just rarely play
I like the pool
DLC.
you had, Kyle. Though, like I think that's wild. I don't know about the ending, so I can't say whether or not like narratively or whatever. But that's pretty rough.
Yeah. Connor McCabe writes in and says, "Hey Ben, Kyle, Janet, and Haley, bam, 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 bam. That's us. Here's a question for the four of you and nobody else. How often do you actually save and quit in modern single-player games instead of just putting your console to sleep?"
I do it every time because I have anxiety.
Yep, I can't handle it. Like it freaks me
cannot.
out. I've gotten burned a couple times with updates, and now if I'm not at a save point, I feel like something's wrong with the world. It's like I have a weird thing too. Like I can't lock my phone unless I'm back on the start home screen.
Oh, that's
I feel that. I do that too.
It kind of feels like the same thing. Like I feel like something's lingering in the electronic space if I have not saved the game.
No. See, now I feel like you gave that to me now.
Good.
You know what I mean? Like you passed it through like the Discord waves. Yeah, I looked down for a second. I don't like that happened.
I lately a lot of what I do is I save and then I close the game and like don't put it in standby. I just fully turn off the system just to give it a nice reset for next time I want to start playing.
I never put my console to sleep. Like you know how like back in the day, and by back in the day I mean like 2 years ago or whenever the PS5 came out, when they're like there's a thing where if you put it to sleep, sometimes the whole thing gets corrupted and like watch out. Like I don't put stuff to sleep. Like sometimes I'll accidentally put it to sleep. Like I'll forget to turn it off and it goes to sleep. And that's why I get like a million of those, like the PlayStation's like, excuse me, I could have died. And I'm like, calm down, PlayStation.
I could have died.
So dramatic.
Always with the dramatics, in my Tony Soprano voice. But
also, by the way, I love how the Xbox, you can unplug it in the middle of it saving and you turn it back on. It's like, I'll just pick up where we left off.
Yeah, exactly. It just isn't, it's...
You want a beer?
But like I pretty much always, I don't quit the game. I just, I save and then I like go to the home and then I close the software.
Wow, that's really interesting.
For Lies of P, because they like berate you about quitting the game. They're like, make sure you quit, like, because that's the only way to like actually save it in a sense. Or like, if you don't hit quit, it won't like, you're kind of rolling the dice on whether or not it saves or not. So now I do that specifically for that game only because it's like the only game that seems to care that I hit quit.
That's like, I don't know. It's like, I guess you could call it a mechanic from Dark Souls. It's like one of the many things it took from Dark Souls. It's like, make sure you quit properly. It's like, all right, what do you think I'm doing here?
Do you think, okay, so Kyle, do you think that's like literally like baked in there? Or do you think it's like an aesthetic? Like they're like, it doesn't really matter. But like,
honestly,
I don't know.
Those games, they're so concerned with balance that I think they just want to make sure that you are fully quitting the game when you're done playing, so that you're not you haven't figured out some way to like dupe items or something like that. But that's just conjecture. I have no idea.
Okay, no, you heard it here first.
There it is.
Everyone take that and write your article. Go in the CMS right now.
I fully shut down my console too because I went my grandmother in Florida knows of a family whose house actually burned down because of an Xbox. Like that's what caused the fire. And I always think about that, and I always say, I'm gonna be that family story to someone else. I'm gonna turn off my PlayStation. Like I've just always thought about it.
I turn off everything. Like literally, I had this conversation yesterday with my boyfriend Isaiah because I'm like, hey, is there a reason that you leave the light on when you leave the room and you're not going back to it? Like, what's up with that? And he's like, oh, like what? That's the one. Like that's not why our power bill's so high. And I'm like, it's not. But like, what's going on here? I grew up in like an older school Mexican household. Like you have to turn off everything. Like, you couldn't leave anything on. We didn't even run the AC. Like it was hot, go to the basement. You know what I mean? So it's like, I still have that toxicity. Like everything gets shut down. Like I turn off my computer like completely when I'm done using it. Like everything's off. Everything's off.
Speaking of everything off, everything's going down apparently, according to the Backstage Pastors. First of all, apparently Valve dropped Counter-Strike 2 today as of the time of this recording, which is wild.
I noticed that too. Yeah.
But then Truffaut at the Backstage Pass level watching us live, he says, hey, according to Bloomberg News and Jason Schreier, PlayStation boss Jim Ryan is stepping down. That is pretty bold. That's strange. Curious to see what comes of that. That's a huge shakeup. I mean, that's the equivalent of Phil Spencer stepping down, like not the most beloved man in the game industry, Jim Ryan. Every time he's on a State of Play, it's always like, okay. But that is huge repercussion. That's
Get the gorilla guy up there.
Please, Herman. I mean, maybe Herman's going to be ascending to his position. I am really curious to see what happens there. But all right, stay tuned, everybody. Also, Hideki Kamiya left Platinum Games since the last podcast, which is also a pretty wild thing of just a legendary figure leaving.
And then tweeted a picture of a hole in his underwear or something.
What?
Very funny. Not like an inappropriate picture, but like, yeah, it was weird. Kamiya, it turns out he's kind of a strange, funny guy.
All right. Jim Ryan, yeah, I'm just seeing Bloomberg's reporting. He also tweeted a picture of a hole in his underwear. That's really interesting.
What is this?
It just says peace out with the peace sign emoji.
They exercise their stock options and rip their underwear and run away.
Sly Cut, speaking of stepping down, says, hello, everybody. On a not too long ago show, you jokingly mentioned reading everyone's last will and testament as a new show plus option. It got me curious, though. What would happen to MinnMax if Ben died?
Kyle.
I was curious to hear your answer for this. Yeah.
This is the first question I've seen in the Slack.
Oh, God, it happened live. Well,
what do we do?
Be good, have fun, let's go to the afterlife. If you so
oh my gosh, he's really committing.
He's really leaning into the bit.
You wanted us to? Oh, there he's giggling. Don't laugh. Oh no, he's dead. Okay. No, I mean, Ben, you're the only one that can answer this question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can't. I'm dead in this hypothetical, dude.
Okay, would you want MinnMax to continue?
Have you not prepared though for this? For like,
there's nothing in writing.
Thought about this?
I've thought about it. Yeah, there's nothing in writing.
Would you like? Would you want? You thought your thoughts.
Well, here, if I could die right now, now, and so I wouldn't be able to volunteer my thoughts. So it's up to you to figure out what would happen.
That's not what the question was, though. It's like what would happen. Like,
okay. How about you let us know if we're right or wrong?
Okay, sure.
I would assume you would want MinnMax to keep going. Oh no. Okay.
Put the Patreon in my grave.
Okay. So I feel like it goes one of two ways. Like there's like a main ways. There's it continues or it doesn't continue. And I'm thinking that if it doesn't continue, you set either calendar year or 3 to 6 months and say like someone puts it up on your behalf because you're dead. And they're like, hey, MinnMax is ending. We're shutting down the Patreon in 3 to 6 months or end of the calendar year, whichever you choose. If y'all want to keep supporting just to like support either your family or like us as we transition to other things, you can. But either way, we're going to end it in 3 to 6 months, like hard stop so that you don't keep like giving your money to nothing. And then you can either put it to go to your wife and then she can just decide if it just is all for like, family stuff, or if she, chooses to like deviate amongst us, that's like within her right. Or you could choose to give it to just like us and like we just split whatever's left like equally or something like that for whatever remains as we transition into anything else. I mean, you're the only one that is full time anyway, so it's really more side money for everybody else, like inherently.
Why wouldn't you?
And then
keep
the other
going?
option is it just dies with you, like I don't know, you guys close it like kind of immediately, and whatever money remains, I imagine would go to your wife.
Yeah. I mean, technically, legally, I guess my wife would own MinnMax at that point. I mean, she already does, which is, it's a weird idea, but so I'd imagine it would be reaching out to her to say what's going on here. But yeah, why would it
in
stop?
These trying times? I mean, I'd let her reach out to me. Like, I'm not going to hit up your mourning wife. No. Like, hey, we rode jet skis that one time. Sorry, your husband died. Like, hell no.
Because MinnMax,
she has my information. She can hit us up if she needs to. Like,
it's a Ben Hansen endeavor, and it's your
That's
legacy. I don't know if you'd want it to keep going without you. I assume you would, though. Like, if I didn't have the chance to ask you, I would think Ben would want this thing to keep going, and we'll keep it going.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of us would step up and sort of take control, I guess, and become the new full-time person. I don't know who that would be.
It'd be like Succession. There's no doubt about it. I would absolutely want it to keep going. There's a reason it's not called Ben Hansen Enterprises or something. It's like, please.
Really? Because we had to talk you out of that at the beginning.
I really wanted it. It did get pretty heated. I absolutely would want it to keep going.
I want it to be Ben Hansen Enterprise.
And like, I remember in the past, a while ago, thinking about it, thinking about your immortality. Number one question is, where do I go? Number two question is, what happens to this freaking Patreon? No, but it was like, oh, I don't know, maybe Leo could just handle all production and then Jeffem could handle business stuff. Like that made sense to me. But now I think if I died and it's like, Leo, handle all production for MinnMax, I think he'd put a bullet in his head and join me. So I don't think he would
really
want
scary.
to.
I'd volunteer if you want to write that down somewhere. I'll make it my new full-time job.
Okay,
We're
noted.
tackling this question as if you died naturally, but what if you were murdered? How would we approach it?
And every other person at MinnMax was a suspect? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
We'd have to do a trivia tower style show to figure out who it was, because it's probably a different outlet.
It's like the murder of Sonic, which I still want to get to, because that came out this year as well.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a weird thing to think about.
I'm not hallucinating, right? That was this year.
No, so yeah, I'd probably just leave it all to Sonic. I agree with Janet. No, yeah, I would want it.
New show plus figuring out who's in charge once Ben dies.
Yeah, I think you'd use my salary and give that to a new production person and then keep it rolling.
I do
just
think
like
Kyle's a
leave.
good fit for it, though. Like,
Sure.
I think that makes sense because it's like, I just feel like that makes sense.
So
like,
Kyle,
I don't think I need to go further.
If I
the other dad, get the other dad in
So
there.
you're
Well,
saying-
Jeffem's a dad too.
The Game Informer like history, like you guys have like this like close like professional and personal relationship. You're kind of in a leadership role already at Game Informer, so it just feels like you have like a sense of those aspects. Like it just seems like it leans into your career style.
But speaking of career, I mean, I get hit by a bus tomorrow. You quit Game Informer then, Kyle?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna.
So you're gonna.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't want to put that on out there in the you know what I mean? Like I don't know who's the ops could be listening to this right now. Like Kyle is fully committed to everything that he is hired to do anywhere.
All hail
he puts
GameStop.
himself so deeply into his work.
Yep.
I've always said the worst thing about Kyle is that he works too hard.
That's right.
For the people that he
That's
works
right.
for.
Yeah, you don't have to DM that to me every week, Janet. I know.
Yeah,
that's
I was like, wow, like he's always going above and beyond, repping the brand. Like his loyalty is so
Unbelievable.
core corporate that it's unfathomable to imagine him anywhere else. But if I had to, I guess it'd be here.
No, I would want it to keep going and then just divvy it up and try to make it work in a paternity leave style way. I think is the best case scenario.
Right.
Godspeed. I'll be looking up at you and smiling every day.
How
everybody.
long do you think we'd have to explain that Ben is dead for if he died? Like to commenters on like the internet, like, hey, we haven't seen Ben in a while.
Oh,
like,
that would be yeah.
I think at least like a year and a half before people really like it's fully out there that he's no longer.
This isn't a bit.
Just don't do it, Ben. Just
okay.
Don't.
Sure.
Just listen to that.
Ben, what's your
phone,
favorite food? Because if you do die, I'd like to put you on the ofrenda, and I need your favorite food to do that.
Oh really? Oh, chocolate chip banana bread.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That sounds delicious.
It's the number one thing you can put in your mouth. Philip Mendoza writes in, says, hey, MinnMax crew, on an episode before Hansen left on maternity leave, he mentioned him and his wife were creating bulk meals, so when the baby arrives, they'd be ready and have these pre-made meals. Hansen also mentioned he was playing a joke on a future Hansen by writing cursed on one of the burritos. My question is twofold. Hansen, how did that joke play out? I said, hey, where was that cursed burrito? I wrote cursed on one of these burritos as a joke. And my wife said, yeah, I saw that. I ate it. I said, did you laugh? She goes, no. I said, okay, yeah, that's about it.
Oh man, that's so funny though. Like, I don't know. I think she's used to that kind of level
she
of
loves
antics.
that level of antics. Also, have you had a time where, quote, past you has played a prank / sabotaged purposefully or by accident set future you up for success? So have you ever messed with a future version of you?
Have you ever written cursed on a burrito and then eaten it later is the question, which is really specific.
Well, yeah, you get the idea. Have you ever done something and be like, this is a fun prank that I'll have to deal with in the future? Or this is setting me up for success in the future. Here we go.
I kind of do that every night because I have that revenge bedtime problem.
Yeah.
Like where you're dreading work tomorrow or you're dreading responsibility, but I'm still awake now, so I'll stay awake late and it's like I have more time to myself, but then you ultimately just feel gross tomorrow. I do that pretty much every night.
Yeah.
For years.
My equivalent of that, I think, is like, okay, I've had some beers and now I just want a snack. And so now it's like, let me just eat the grossest crap in this house and just shove as much in my mouth as possible. And then a future me will have to deal with the consequences.
Eating is just future me hating me, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of true. I had an old roommate named Joe. Last name, I'm not going to give you, Kyle. Stop pestering me.
Kyle.
Anyways, he had a thing where when he would get drunk, well, basically it was like,
I'm scared.
I forget if I found them or he just warned me about it. but he had a thing where he would get really drunk and then he would hide his glasses to act as a prank for future Joe. So he's like, yeah, if you find my glasses in the freezer, that's just me messing with myself when I wake up in the morning if I've been really drunk, which is like, that just blew my mind. Like, what are you doing, dude?
It's like he has like a Moon Knight moment, basically.
Yeah, the worst,
watch the Marvel
most
show,
boring episode of Moon Knight is
good.
hiding his glasses. Yeah.
That actually I think would have been better than the rest of the episode. I would have
Wow.
Ooh, Moon Knight hate.
I liked
Ooh.
Moonlight. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's
Ethan
all right.
Hawke?
I like the first episode or two.
Janet, we need to watch Boyhood soon. Anyways, Travis.
I know.
Travis in Fargo writes in to say, what's a word that sounds super appetizing but has nothing to do with food? MacGuffin always makes me hungry for a breakfast sandwich. That's a really good one. I like this question. I just heard Mike Birbiglia, the comedian, I think it was him, in an interview. He said, I like pizza so much, I get excited when I see the word plaza. I was like, yes. I've never connected with something
so
more.
funny.
Yeah,
That's
he's
it.
great.
Also, shout out, instead of missed joke opportunities, everybody please just submit your favorite one-liner from a comedian. That'll be a good opportunity on the podcast. Just submit over there on Patreon. We'll read it if it's funny. Ron writes in, says, hello, MinnMax. After completing my previous Better Quest goal of finally getting my Bachelor of Science degree in plant science, congratulations.
Cool.
You're rooted for success. He says, I now have a new goal. I recently...
Wow. A homework review.
Missed joke opportunities. We're
see
trying to
you
avoid
go.
those missed joke opportunities.
Yeah, it is a joke opportunity you should have taken. That's a new category. I recently
That
started...
actually would be funny if people write in with that. This wasn't good. You shouldn't have said that. Well, I guess that's every comment on YouTube.
It
so.
really is, yeah. Check it
there's
out.
a lot of them.
It's great. I recently started a job in agriculture and I needed to learn Spanish. So I've been using Duolingo for the past 3 days. And as my new goal, I want to get a year-long streak and become somewhat fluent in Spanish. Keep up the good work. Same to you, Ron. Way to go. That's sweet. Jared Piers writes in and says, hey, MinnMax, since it released on PS5, I've been playing Baldur's Gate with my wife, and it made me realize, this is interesting, that most co-op focused games have got it completely wrong. Most co-op games focus on having multiple characters that work together to solve a problem, but they should be focusing on being able to solve separate problems with as little interaction with each other as possible. Both my wife and I are completely self-sufficient in Baldur's Gate, and we each get to have our own little victories and moments of discovery while sharing info if we need to and grouping up to take down the bigger challenges. I think that's my ideal co-op experience.
I guess that's an MMO, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that's true, but even then, it's like you're normally questing together. But I love that because like co-op design 101 is like, oh, isn't it kind of fun if we work together on this little project? But you're right, like that is so much more interesting in Baldur's Gate of like, no, go out and have your own adventure and merge when you need to, but the more it can push you to have separate adventures while playing co-op, the better. That's funky.
And that game's great because your weird, wacky thing affects something else happening across the map. And you're like, wait, did you give that hag this or not? And I did. Oh, and then over there, something else happens because they did that. Like that lends very well to that kind of gameplay.
Awesome. Dr. Ock asks, when was the last time you were nervous?
Like all the time.
Nervous all the time? Every day?
Maybe not every day, but it's usually like if there's, I don't know, something I have to do, like a level of performance. Sometimes it can be randomly for like podcasts I regularly do, which is weird, where it's like, this is just a regular show.
Sure.
Most recent, probably like being at the dentist. I didn't realize I'm afraid of the dentist until I went again as an adult and was like, I guess I maybe always was afraid of this and just forgot that I was afraid.
So now you're nervous going into it for the rest of your life?
Yeah. I hate everything about it. I would love to just be knocked out for all of it. Everything.
It would be
X-rays,
nice.
everything. I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I think we all of this generation particularly like have like, kind of daily social anxieties and various anxieties and stuff. But the last like sort of, this is a weird thing to say, I suppose, but like typical nervous I was we went to Disney World recently, which was a blast. I had a great time. And but we're not really big as a family. We're just not big ride people. We don't do like roller coasters and stuff like that. But we all kind of banded together and we're like, we're going to do one big one. And it was the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster at Epcot, which is like the newest, biggest, most modern, like contemporary roller coaster. And it was like, we were all standing in line together. And we were like, I was genuinely nervous. I was like, is this a mistake? Is my kid going to like, is this going to be like a scarring memory for her, like getting on this roller coaster? But and But then we did like the fast pass stuff, so we didn't have to wait too long, which was like a blessing because I think there's a chance that like we might have backed out.
Whoa!
Like if we didn't get like right on the ride, but it ended up being like very cool, and I'm glad that was the one that we picked to be like, all right, we're gonna do one big one, and it's this one because it's like a really fantastic ride, and it like blasts, or in our case at least, there's a couple of different songs that'll play. It blasted Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Okay,
while you're
fun.
On this like. Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster. That's very cool. And even my daughter who's young, like she walked off the ride and she was like, that song was really good. Like she was like that really. So it was like, and but so that was the last time I was kind of like traditionally nervous, was like watching the sort of the cars like fly off into the distance as they like carted up loads of people. It was really cool.
Oh yeah, amusement park nervousness, I guess, is a certain blend. I guess like for me, I guess like really nervous obviously is like, hey, the baby was coming out. That day.
That's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, we unpacked that on party chat.
Off,
yeah, exactly. It's like nothing else
I
is
feel
really
I have real
fair.
problems
now because my PC sounds like it's going to explode.
I heard that.
Oh, really?
I didn't say anything because I didn't want to.
Are you driving an Alan Wake? What are you doing?
Did you hear it?
I heard it
No, I
way
think
before.
Discord's canceling it out. So
It's
Like at one
canceling
point, I
out.
heard like a sound, and I'm like,
if
Yeah,
it,
my partner across
crazy.
the way was like even he heard it in our kitchen, and it's making the weirdest sound. I'm just kind of
yeah,
like,
it kind of sounds like a sick cat or something.
yeah, if it
yeah, I'm just gonna mute in between talking, I suppose.
All right.
Get out of the car in Alan Wake and go get into like a small cabin so it doesn't have to render as much.
smart. If it explodes, Haley, we'll carry on MinnMax without you. I promise.
I'll go down with the ship. Okay.
It's just shrapnel from a GPU.
We'll split up the White Claws like among ourselves.
I noticed when I'm really nervous, and it was weird because I didn't seem nervous going into like the hospital. I was like, okay, I feel pretty good. I feel ready. My body isn't showing like huge signs of anxiety clearly or anything. But I realized then I was just like talking just in a normal way, but I was just stumbling over my words and like combining words in a weird way. And I noticed there's another time where I had an interaction with police years ago where also I was just, my words were just like blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's a weird sign of being nervous that even if I feel like I think I'm normal, my tongue is just like, you are not normal right now. Your body's falling apart. It's a weird sign, you know? Harry S. writes in, says, a while ago, someone wrote in about a wild coincidence, and Ben said if anyone else had any more wild coincidences to send them in. So here's mine. I got an Instagram ad for a band whose name sounded vaguely familiar, and when I looked them up, I realized they were a band I'd followed on Facebook back in 2014 after I saw them busking in York, shortly after moving there from Ireland. I mainly had only followed them because one of the members smiled at me and I thought he was cute. I mentioned this in passing in my writing group's Discord, and my friend asked if the band was King No One. I said it was and asked how she knew, and she replied, because I also visited York in 2014 and also saw them busking and also thought the guy was cute and he also smiled at me. So we were likely in the same city around the same time and had identical experiences with the same band 6 years before we'd ever met each other.
So he's just smiling at everybody is the thing.
This guy must be the cutest charmer in York. I cannot believe the smiley lad over there. Great coincidence. I love it. Thank you for writing in. Kyle, this is a boring one, I think, but rate this coincidence, please. My wife and I, a while ago, were going to a restaurant. We were walking to a restaurant, and we're literally walking out of my house to go to the restaurant, and I said, you know what we need? Like the one thing we're missing in our house is an industrial broom. Like I'm talking one of those wide brooms so I can like sweep out the garage when it's got a bunch of leaves in there and stuff, or just sand and dirt. And so we talked about like, I was like, I don't know, where do I get an industrial broom? Where's the closest place I could pick up one of those? We then went to the restaurant, ate, walked out, and then leaning against a tree as we're walking out of the restaurant was an industrial broom. Like one of those wide brooms. And there were people eating outside, and they're like, because we were like talking about a broom, having a riveting conversation about like, what are the odds? There's a broom right here. How often do you see these just out in the wild? And then somebody sitting there was like, yeah, it literally fell off like a car going by. And I know that's an expression, but like literally it happened. And then somebody in the street ran out and got it and put it there. And
that
so
boosted it up higher, I think. Yeah.
That's good. So then I just grabbed it and then got to walk home with an industrial broom, which is probably the wrong way to phrase that. I don't even know. What do you call one of those wide brooms?
It's a good thing that you found one because they're expensive.
Is that right?
No.
I don't know.
No, I would actually give that like a 8 or a 9.
All right.
10.
Okay. Thank you.
If it hadn't fallen out of the car, I think it would be like a 6 or a 7. But yeah.
Okay, sure. All right. I think that's it for questions. Everybody got a favorite? Something that stands out?
I mean, I do have a weird coincidence that I always.
Oh yeah, please.
It's very weird.
Yes.
Well, my partner and I figured out we met a bunch of times before we actually started dating, like very quickly. Like he took my ID once when I got into a bar, and then another time, I was working retail and he was working for our downtown city. He came and gave me a bunch of pamphlets, but we were both dating other people at the time, so like your brain's not like, oh, let's keep chatting. I was like, thanks. He's like, okay, and like walked away. So like we didn't talk there. But the craziest one was on the night of our first date, I went to go do trivia at apparently the place where he usually does trivia. And I was meeting him after, and I went in, I was doing trivia, and they were like, hey, like I'll be the one hosting trivia tonight. Like shout outs to Michael. Like, he can't make it because he's going on a date tonight. And I was with my sister and my friend. I was like, that's the guy I'm going on a date with in like an hour. And they're like, what? And so when I went to see him, I was like, do you do trivia at King's? He's like, yeah, like all the time. But obviously we're hanging out tonight. I was like, I was just there and they said your name. And it was
announced it over the radio. That's such
so
a
funny.
weird thing.
That's really good. I hate to say it, Ben, but like that blew your broom story out of the water. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but where do you buy a broom? Okay, yeah, no, you got it, Haley. Way to go.
That's really cool.
It turns out my wife and I, before we met, we went to the exact same show of Hamilton in Minneapolis. We found out like same time, same show. We sat like a couple rows away from each other. It's like, that's a pretty weird one. So now when people ask where we met, we just say Hamilton. It's better than, I don't know, some online forum thing.
It's such a millennial answer that I say you met at Hamilton.
Oh, really? It's also not cool? Yeah. OkCupid is cooler than that? Is that? All right, question of the week.
I hate that app so much. It was so bad.
I thought it was great. Let's see.
Yeah,
it worked out.
Yeah. Even though we didn't have a great answer for it, I thought the Baldur's Gate co-op thing was interesting. I like the worst DLC. I like
people in the chat are liking the death.
It's I mean,
kind of morbid.
It's interesting.
It is the best question of the week.
It was a talker.
Yeah, Haley, how do you feel about death?
Terrified, but I did like that question.
Great, so let's reward it. Sly Cut, congratulations, you doomhound yourself. You just won the Mario Brothers cassette, the perfect companion piece to thinking about death. Now it's time for something we call Get a Load of Death.
The PSP game?
That's right.
Play rock metal here. Rock metal.
Let's see. I'll go first. Look, there's an old Apple II game. It started on the Atari, but I played a lot on Apple II. It's genuinely one of like the most important kids for me as a kid. It was my Mario, and it's called Boulder Dash. I don't know. Does anyone know Boulder Dash? Okay, great.
I'm almost let me look it up.
It's a little dig duggy. Anyways, it was an awesome game back in the Apple II, and I was just looking up like, is there any like making of Boulder Dash? Is there any documentary about Boulder Dash online? And there's a YouTube channel called Slopes Game Room that made just a hour-long documentary on the full history of Boulder Dash. And it's one of those things of like, I'm so glad somebody else made this so I didn't have to pour 100 hours into making it myself. But I really enjoyed it. There's a link below if you want to learn the full history of this and how it interconnects with Dig Dug. And it was originally called Pitfall, which is weird compared to the Activision games.
It's like Sucker Punch's Uncharted game.
Right, where they wanted to call their game Uncharted before Uncharted existed. But that's it for me. Kyle, you got one?
I have this TikTok that I came across of Miyamoto playing Mario 64 music on guitar. It's just a minute of like watching Miyamoto play guitar. It's great. Watch it.
Oh, awesome.
Links below. Right?
Yeah. Haley?
Get a load of this. There's a new trailer for the Disney Wish movie, and it looks really cute, and I'm excited for it. It just came out like an hour before we started recording.
Oh, I gotta check it out.
Very new, but it looks good.
Have you guys seen Elemental yet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is it good? I haven't watched it yet.
Marketing did that movie so dirty. Like that little Claude kid, like the rock kid.
I heard about the Claude controversy.
Like he was a main character. He's in it for 30 seconds and he's the worst. He's like, oh, I'm Claude. And you're like, okay. And then she leaves. And the marketing was like Claude. It was just all about like that one scene with Claude. So I went into this thinking, oh, it's going to be about Claude and how he, whatever. And he's literally not in the movie.
Oh my God.
Like I read the stories many times. I don't know why it's so funny hearing you recant this or retell this though. But yes, this this is what I know about that marketing of that movie. Yeah, the Claude fiasco. Yeah,
weird. You got one, Jenna?
It's fine.
Okay,
I don't know.
Okay, I want to see
better
it.
than Peter Sohn's other Pixar
people.
movie.
Okay, here's Elemental. It's giving Resident Evil 3,
Yeah,
where it's like it's not even that bad, but
Right.
people like it's been tainted for the community. I think.
guess I'll spend the rest of my life defending Elemental. Okay.
Yeah, it's
add it to the pile. Why not?
Yeah.
Get a load of this.
Turning red.
Get a load of this. Mine's an NPR article that talks about Taylor Swift's star power sending Travis Kelce's jersey sales soaring.
Oh my God!
His
of
jersey
course.
sales went up like 400% because she was at the Chiefs game where he plays, because football. The other football, the one that I don't know about. But yeah, I just think that's a wild thing that like fandom can be so powerful that it can just vaguely touch another thing and then just skyrocket that thing that's totally unrelated. Like,
Yep.
I just think that's like kind of incredible to see people have like a fandom that's so powerful that it can cross across like content line. Like, I don't know if there's a thicker content line than Taylor Swift and American football, but like here's the overlap now.
Well,
and it's like,
it's
ooh.
there.
I guess they're both very Americana, but
What
whatever.
was
Miss Americana, I'd say.
the voting stat that she like caused
Oh.
like a bajillion people to
Yeah.
register to vote? Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's very heartwarming. I'm happy to hear
Suspiciously,
about that.
500 million people registered to vote after she posted on Instagram or something.
That's better
Look.
than jerseys.
Look, she's a genius businesswoman. There's no doubt about it. Do you think, Janet, if you had to pin it down and say, yes, this happened or not, did her appearing in such a public way at that football game, would she be doing that in that way if she didn't have that concert movie coming out next month?
Yeah, I think she can do anything at this point, and it's just going to be a scene. Like,
But
there was
she-
a whole big controversy around a lot of fans, like, gathering around the outside of where, like, an engagement party for a friend was happening, and that wasn't even, like, that is by no means a public appearance. Like, that got a lot of pushback within the community about, hey, y'all, I know some of you are, like, super obsessed with Taylor Swift, but, like, that is weird and not
Yes.
good behavior to be like. So, yeah, like, she's, like, ridiculously popular. Like, if
I
she could do
understand
anything,
that.
and
I
anything
understand
would
she could
be
do
anything. You know what I mean? I don't think it's like, oh, I'm gonna choose to step outside. I mean, maybe it is, but like, I don't think it's like,
I'm just
I'm
saying
only
she-
gonna step outside to garner attention. I think like if she wants to live her life in any capacity, it's gonna be garnering attention. And she's always working, so there's always like, it's her re-releases. Like, there's always content coming out,
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think, like, I don't think it's like, oh, she's above like Mark. Like, I don't think it's like, oh, she's so ethical that she'd never do marketing aspects.
Right.
But I don't think the two are necessarily related because she always has a big thing coming around the
so
corner.
famous now.
Yeah, but also, I mean, look, with her last big relationship, she was pretty quiet about it for years and years and years, right? So it's weird to be like, look at me and this hot new couple.
But also like that, and I'm not a Swiftie, so it's like I'm speaking outside of the community.
Sure.
But like that's also more of that was during COVID. A lot of that was a COVID relationship, and like he didn't want like stardom like that, and he's not that famous of a guy. As far as famous guys go.
Billy Pilgrim's Long Halftime Walk or whatever that movie was. You're saying that's not a famous film? He was the star of that Ang Lee film, Kyle, that no one talks about.
Yeah, which I don't think you even got the title right.
No, I think it was Billy Pilgrim's Long Saloon
Crowboy in the
Stroll.
chat says, I don't think Ben is a Swiftie either. I suspected as much, but you never know.
I'm not, but I'm married to one. Hey, from the
What does she
community.
think about all this? Ask her what she thinks about the Travis Kelce stuff.
Hey, Leafeon over in the Discord. They submitted this one here. It says a personal / alternate ending for Jaws has been revealed. Where it's a tweet from Ethan Sachs. He says, a few years ago, my daughter got to interview Steven Spielberg as part of a junior reporting article for New York Daily News.
Oh, that's cool.
And she specifically asked him about the dog in Jaws, Pippet, because the dog disappears. It's like, oh, that shark got eaten. And so she asked what's going on. Was Pippet actually eaten by the shark in Jaws? And Steven Spielberg said, what's possible with Pippet is not owned by the person who threw the stick. Pippet was a neighbor's dog, and Pippet decided he was tired of chasing the stick for as many times as it was thrown to him. He was hungry and ignored the stick in the water, swam home, and had a very good dinner.
I love it.
So
Very
apparently new canonical ending, or I guess plot point for Jaws is the dog did
Yeah.
not die, according to Steven Spielberg. So congratulations.
Let's get doesthedogdie.com updated right away.
That's
Let's do
it. Now Jaws is watchable. All right. Thanks everybody for watching or listening to this episode of the MinnMax Show. Thank you to everybody who left a review on Apple Podcasts and won a code for Jedi Star Wars Jedi Survivor. We sent out those 2 codes, but thanks again for everybody for spreading the good word there. Again, you can check out the new episode of Cream of the Steam from the MinnMax studio. Brian Vore and Giant Bomb's Dan Reichert joined for that group stream. It was fun just to sit back and play a bunch of silly games in there. You can unlock Party Chat if you're a Patreon supporter. $5 tier, that's our bonus podcast each and every week. This week, we followed up on the conversation from last week about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So if you want even a deeper conversation than we had on the main show, you can check out Party Chat, that bonus podcast. It's a lot of fun theories with the community and unpacking details and that new gameplay, which looks awesome. Also, I review the Beetlejuice musical, which I also saw, and all that fun stuff. So check out the Party Chat. I don't know why that's
Did you vape during it?
How dare you? It's a good musical.
Sure.
It's divorced from anything else.
We were looking at tickets the other day.
It's really different from the movie. It's interesting how different it is. Also, something else I want to plug real quick is coming up at the end of the month here, obviously, with October rolling around the corner, and we have a benefit on Patreon that maybe we don't plug that much, but Wall of Heroes. Like if you watch the video version of the MinnMax show or any MinnMax content, there's just a constant rotation of images. And those are images from people at that $100 tier. And so I know I'm impartial to this, but I always just want to scream about it. Like if you do the math on that, that image is being seen literally millions and millions of times throughout 1 month here at MinnMax. And it only costs $100 to put any image you want, within reason, nothing grotesque, right? Up in that slot to rotate through in that slideshow. So it's the cheapest marketing I could possibly imagine. If you want to plug your podcast, your Twitch channel, a picture of your pet, obviously, or you can be more clinical and do your indie game, whatever you want, $100, and it's literally seen millions and millions and millions of times, especially throughout October, which is going to be a huge month for games. It's going to be seen a lot. So it's a great time to jump in at that $100 tier, or just try the $100 tier just for 1 month, put an image there, help shake up the visuals here. It's a good time. It's a good time to look at all day, every day. Janet, you have something you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm currently raising money for the American Heart Association. So you can check out, it's pinned on my Twitter, and I can send the link to put in the description here. But yeah, I'm raising money for that. I have a team of a coalition of the willing, as some may think of it as. It's me. It's like one of my moderators. It's my friend Eddie. It's my brother. Haley just joined, which is really exciting, of this episode. So boom, there you go. My boyfriend Isaiah's there. Jill Grote. 6-1 Indie, aka like Mike is there. Jenny is about to join. So we have a bunch of different people. I have a fun incentive added to whoever raises the most money who isn't me gets to pick a game for me to stream all day,
Ooh.
Gets a pizza, and gets a shout out on social media. So
awesome.
It's also like a cool way where you could like go into my team link and sort of gamify, like, oh, do you want to, Ash is at 257. Do you want to toss, in money for like Ash's thing? Do you want to toss in money for like whatever nonsense my brother would make me do? It's however you want to go about it, but it's a great cause. The American Heart Association basically works towards doing aspects of prevention, supporting of survivors of heart issues, heart conditions, stroke, and also general research, CPR training. So they do a bunch of great work towards supporting all those affected. So yeah, be sure to check it out. I'm streaming primarily as my fundraising thing. It goes for a really long time until like December, but I'm planning on mostly going really hard right now and during October. So yeah,
nice.
The whole team's already at like $1,900 on our way towards our first like 5,000 milestone. So it's going good. It's been fun. I've been, playing Kingdom Hearts. I'm like, it's Kingdom Hearts for heart health. We're like talking about the AHA.
Makes sense.
Doing whatever nonsense is going on in that game. Sora was a mermaid at one point. Please no spoilers, but
there we go.
It's been a blast and a half. So check it out and check out all the fundraising that different people on my team are now getting into.
There we go. Links below for all that fun stuff. On the fundraising note, also, we normally do a big 24-hour stream in early November for Extra Life, and we are doing a big charity stream in November. We will be sharing details on that very soon. So jump into Janet's charity drive to prime the pumps, as they say. Also, forgot to plug it, but yeah, next week on Patreon will be your chance to vote for the deepest dive. So jump in there, and as Backstage Pass says, don't forget to plug the Mario Wonder deepest dive. Okay, thank you, Snake.
Who said that?
That's Snake.
I did think that was really funny. Like, I'm wondering if it's gonna, like, I'm so curious now, because I wonder if people are gonna go in the opposite direction, where they're like, let's all rally around Wonder, and then again, I'm gonna bring the heat with the level analysis. Like, I'm gonna do the work that needs to be done if it's needed.
There we go.
We'll see.
We'll see. Also, thank you to everybody who's at the $50 tier on Patreon for keeping this whole thing afloat in a big bad way. You can become a $50 Patreon supporter and choose any game under the sun to be declared the champion of. And then also you are put in the poll for the game championship, where we create bonus content about the number one pick voted on by the community. The point is that Zezima is the champion of RuneScape. Great pick. Zachary Pligge, of course, is the champion of Superman 64. Clemens Zobel, the champion of Alpha Protocol. Congratulations, great pick. And TrampolineTales, once again, choosing their own game, but ain't nothing wrong with that, with Luck Be a Landlord. All right, I think that's it for this big episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. Thanks so much, everybody. Looking forward to a fun one next week, but that's it for us. Be good, have fun, let's go.